Headlines at just gone 10 a.m. I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. talkSPORT's Stuart Pearce thinks Man City could miss out on the top four this season.
The one main thing that Pep had, the ability to keep driving the team time and time again. And if you drop off 5% is probably about three, 4 places in the Premier League.
Stuart calls Arsenal's 3-0 win one of the best Community Shield performances ever. Pep's gone, Rodri's off to Barcelona. We're told that one could mean Enzo Fernandez leaves Chelsea for the Etihad. Over at Villa, will Emi Martinez want to play second fiddle to Japan's Zion Suzuki? Here's Crookie.
It's an awkward one, isn't it? Because we know that Emi Martinez has got a fairly sizable ego. He's not going to like the fact that Villa have brought in another goalkeeper. So I think they're going to have to find a way to try and move him on between now and September the 1st.
We're told Villa have agreed a £34.2 million deal for the 23-year-old Suzuki. Scotland have moved on from Steve Clarke. Ali McCoist calls their new head coach a left field appointment.
We've decided to go down a completely different... It's not even a Bertie Vogts route. It's somebody that a lot of people, myself included, do not know an awful lot about. That doesn't mean he's not going to be a success.
Well, the Belgian Sébastien Pocagnoli guided Union Saint-Gilloise to the Belgian League title, then was sacked by Monaco in June. The Nations League gets going next month. And the new darling of Team GB Athletics, Amy Hunt, told us competing alongside the men gave her an extra gear in the mixed relay.
I really like it as a new event. I think it's great to be able to pull all these kind of people on the tracks together at the same time. When we were warming up, Jeremiah was calling us the Avengers, and I think it's really great for the crowd and all the young people in the crowd to see us all together out at once.
Hunt won her record 4th European Championship gold alongside Jeremiah Azu, Zarnel Hughes and Dina Asher-Smith. You can watch Amy Hunt's interview back on the talkSPORT YouTube.
talkSPORT News.
Grassroots football could face water restrictions just as the season gets going, and new homes near train, tram and underground stations in England will be approved by default. Emma has more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. This summer, treat yourself to Bridgestone Turanza All-Season 6 tyres with a 25,000 mileage guarantee. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
In the north, cloudy with outbreaks of rain. That rain getting heavier across Northern Ireland and western Scotland this afternoon. Further south, feeling warm and humid as hazy sunshine develops. Expect more showers across the country this week.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown, and we are live on talkSPORT. So, Arsenal dominate Manchester City to win the Community Shield. Is it a precursor for what's to come in the season that lies ahead? Meanwhile, the Championship is off and running. How long can the EFL argue that no VAR equals no issue? Also today, who will win control at West Ham? Gianni Infantino wounded but not defeated? Is Rodri's departure a game changer? Can Newcastle thrive post-Howe? And are we seeing the start of an FSG exit plan at Liverpool? Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown, we're all live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
So there I was on holiday in Sicily. And as you do, you go up and have a look at Mount Etna. And I was looking at Mount Etna and it erupts right in front of us. And I thought, this is amazing. Photographs, listening to it, the noise of the eruption. And then you look to the sky and you think, that's a lot of ash up there. We're not going to get out of here. And we didn't. So I have to tell you, Ali McCoist was boring us all rigid with his travel stories this morning on breakfast, but I'll do my bit. It was a train/ferry over to mainland Italy. Simon, thank you for feigning interest in this. And then it was a 6-hour rail journey to Naples. And then a scramble for a flight to London the following night. But I got back And the two of you look delighted at that news. Simon Jordan, Arsenal Invincible, Martin Keown are with us live in the show. Good morning. Now, the last time I spoke to you, Simon, you were heading to Spain, a bit worried that your Spanish mates were going to give you hell if Spain went on to win the World Cup final. And they did.
They did, yeah.
So did they? Well,
not really, because I watched a group of Italians who were more inclined to wish Spain the worst than the best. But where I was a little bit distant from all the celebrating Spanish fans. I was there in 2010, and I had the joy of watching them celebrate, because they're a little, retiring group, the Spanish, when they win something, shy and retiring. So no, I watched a dreadful football match. It was a dreadful World Cup final, I thought, in terms of a football spectacle.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Absolutely tepid. However good Spain may be about retaining the ball, it's not particularly entertaining to watch, is it?
Yeah, was not. Arsenal Invincible, Martin Keown's in our midst. Where have you been?
Well, I've been everywhere. In fact, I hope I can match your enthusiasm. You've exploded onto the set for the start of this show. I went to sunny Northern Ireland for a fantastic holiday. Went to the Causeway, went round the top, went to Portrush. Beautiful. Met so many good people. The Irish are amazing.
Oh, they'd love
company,
you.
Yeah. And talkSPORT is talked about, let me tell you, just as much there as it is in New York, where we were last together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a good summer. It's all come around quite quickly.
Yeah.
Was at the final yesterday. I was in Cardiff. Really enjoyed that game of football. A little bit concerned for Man City and what's happening there. Maresca.
Oh, you're not.
I am, Jim, because obviously Man City have been quite magnificent the last 10 years, so it could implode the way that you saw that yesterday. And Arsenal, as a result of their behaviour, their culture, you come back from a pre-season where World Cup's hardly any kind of rest, and it's all about really what the core beliefs in the group, and they showed yesterday they're really up for the challenge.
Yeah. Let's get into it. Arsenal already a trophy up then, and the season hasn't really started in earnest. Incidentally, Ray, taxi driver, stopped in the street, turned his cab around, came back to me and said, huge fan of the show, huge fan of Simon's. Ray, good morning to you. So much to get into. In actual fact, you'll be aware, Thierry Henry has a birthday today.
Yeah.
49 years old.
49 games unbeaten, and he's 49 years of age, yeah.
There we go. I didn't hear from you when I had my... Or did I? I was in here for my birthday, wasn't I?
We were here.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't hear from either of you for my birthday, and there's a big number for me this year. And in fact, I was looking around thinking, well, will these two send me a happy birthday? I always do that for you too. And no, it didn't happen. So what I did was actually I put your podcast on, which I thought was really very interesting. I never got to Simon's because the headline was looking like too much doom and gloom. So I thought I'll look at that.
What podcast do I do
in another time?
What does he do?
When I lost every penny, and I was absolutely.
Oh, that was Smith Brothers. That wasn't my podcast. That was their podcast.
Okay, well, it was an
insight into resilience.
It came up.
You footballers would know nothing about.
It came up to all decisions that you made. It came up. It came up to alongside your podcast. So
alcohol.
I thought, okay, they haven't heard from them. So what I'll do is I'll put them on just to listen.
I'm so. So when was your?
And I got a good understanding of you, Jim, listening to that. To be honest, and what you'd gone through. And it was very succinct the way you put your story together. So I think you did that
know me by now, Martin.
No, but I've not heard the story. I've not heard the story of going beyond the boundaries at the Sky and all of those sorts of things that you. And I think you've done a massive job in staying away from alcohol for as long as you have.
Thank you very much indeed.
I'm back on it. I've listened to that nonsense.
Martin Keown, thank you so much. No, Martin, seriously. A belated happy birthday. When was it, and how many numbers are we talking
24th of July, 60 years of age.
Oh,
it's hit me. Yeah, you know. I think Simon's not far away from that.
True.
Yeah. Well, you're looking good, boy. You've obviously had a good time away.
Been on the beach, hasn't he?
I have. My trips have been from the beach and back. That's about as far as I've gone.
Yeah, but I've seen you doing your top boxing with Spencer.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I did that. I wanted to continue doing the boxing because it's such a good show that I enjoy doing with the boys, and we did it from a studio in Marbella, so it was good. Yeah.
Excellent.
So you're relaxed, ready to go?
Always relaxed.
I'm looking forward
to Mondays.
Garcia Ben, Simon. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to the fight in between now and then, which is obviously Moses
Bogovic. Moses. Good. Okay. Arsenal got back to winning ways yesterday. They dominated Manchester City 3-0 and they won the Community Shield. But can you make a statement in football's most inconsequential match? Because that's what it is, really. Let's face it. This was Arteta post-match on where it might take them.
Very impressed in the manner that we play, especially in the manner that we competed. So that's the standard for us. And if we drive the standards at this level, I'm sure that we're going to be really, really competitive. I talk about desire with the composure and desire to have the ball that we have against a team that they are really good in the way they press. They are really good when they regain the ball, especially inside, in the way they do this transition. And to have that courage and that composure is only if you desire to do that in the manner that we've done it today. And I'm very pleased with that.
So Martin, you've already said that you worry for Manchester City in some way, but I mean, it's the Community Shield. Can you really take the Community Shield as a serious benchmark
I think that's
at
a bit
any time?
disparaging what you're saying. Let me just put it into perspective. So
How is it?
that's a game of honour, right? In terms of it's an honour to play in that football match because what it represents is the two most successful teams from the season before. So you walk out there, shoulders back, chest out, and you're proud to be there. Okay, you want to win it. Let me tell you, you want that in your team photograph. That photograph for Arsenal has been held back, and City, for this week, so they can maybe drop in another trophy. Arsenal will have that. You're proud to do it.
So you really value your
It's a dress
Shield medal,
100%, 100%. It's a
Really?
dress. Oh, yes. Well, you'll have to take it from me. You've asked me the question. If you don't believe me, then what can I do about that?
Okay.
So I can just tell you how I was, my mindset. Now, really what I enjoyed yesterday was the mindset of the players. So obviously that's born out of the culture within the club. The manager's really pleased. You can see there's been a really good reaction. Ødegaard is back in the building. He's ready to go. He's the captain. He's the player whose position's under most threat, and he played a big part in the game yesterday. So let's get that right. But you're right. If you lose the game, you can say it doesn't matter. We're not ready because it's part of your training.
That's a very point.
But the thing is, it's still a valuable trophy. Whenever we saw Pep win it, wasn't that often, by the way. So we shouldn't be panicking in a Man City situation. They lost 4 of the last 5 Community Shields. You basically look at it and say, okay, it's part of the training, but we'll be ready for the start. It's a wake-up call for Man City. And I'm saying they need to wake up, Jim, because yesterday they fell below the standards that we've been used to seeing.
So, Simon, do you take much from it?
Well, Crystal Palace won it last year, didn't they? You look at it and say it's debatable whether the best two teams are competing in a competition. The FA Cup winners no longer now considered to be the best teams in English football because the Premier League has become such a dominant force. Back in the day when I grew up watching in the 80s, when Liverpool were the dominant force in English football, the Community Charity Shield then had so much more meaning, even such to the point where you got Billy Bremner and Kevin Keegan fighting on the field in 1974 because they got involved in a game that was full of niggle between Leeds and Liverpool. Ironically, more teams that lose the Community Shield go on and win the league than ones that win it. So if you look at the statistics in the Premier League era, I think something less than 25% of teams that won the Community Shield have gone on to win the league the following season. More teams that have lost the Community Shield have gone on to win the Premier League. So to me, it's no surprise that Arsenal won. They're not a club in transition. They're in a club in ascent. They've got a stable base. They've got a group of players that have performed very well last year and won the Premier League and got that monkey off their backs. They've got some knowledge behind them now. They're now winners. They now know what winning feels and looks like, and they've got a manager that's consistent.
Yeah.
They're playing against a side that's in a slight degree of transition because they've just lost an iconic manager. They've got other clubs around them that are going through transitions as well. So it's Arsenal's opportunity to take. But do I think it's a precursor and a predeterminer to what we're going to see for the season? Possibly, but that undermines the eliteness of the Premier League and what it will throw out this season. Because we don't want, any more than any neutral wanted Manchester City or Manchester United or Liverpool at any given time to dominate English football. You want to see the league being competitive. So I hope Arsenal aren't going to win the Premier League this year. If I'm an Arsenal fan, of course I expect them to do so, but I'm not. I'm a neutral.
Well, you could argue that all the top clubs are in transition right now.
Yeah, just going back to Simon's initial point, you can't argue that these two are the best two teams in English football. There's no doubt about that. So just like to give it the gravitas it deserves, these are the two best teams. We
Right.
can go back to Liverpool throwing punches and all the rest of it, but maybe there was a bit of ill-discipline back then. But we don't want to see that in our game now. I just think the Man City players just weren't cooked properly for this format, for this game.
Right, they're not ready yet.
And Arsenal were, because they knew what they're dropping back into. They know a little bit about their manager. They looked a little bit lost yesterday. And then so a Rodri leaving the football club later on in the day. You know, you've lost De Bruyne, Gundogan, the Stones is gone, Bernardo Silva. These are big losses from the football club. So there will be concern. So the manager needs to get in there and start leading it. And of course, we want competition. We're going to see Liverpool probably come back into things this season. We've got 9 new Premier League managers, Jim. We've got 2 that will to add to that, will have their first full seasons in De Zerbi and Carrick. So
right.
There's lots for us to look forward to, but the stability is with Arsenal.
So even though you said to me before we came on there, it's very encouraging, they can still be toppled, right?
Of course, it's just one game. So, you focus in, look, Arsenal, what are they? Villa away, second match. They've got very difficult games coming up, Jim.
Yeah.
Bournemouth as well early on. So it's going to be tough. Man City start with Bournemouth.
Yeah.
The bigger loss is the manager. I mean, players come and go. They transition. Clubs have to transition. Man United were famous for transitioning clubs.
Yeah.
But the two together is huge, Simon, no?
Yeah, well, I think Rodri leaving Man City was done. I mean, I don't know what's the surprise. I thought that was a done deal.
It was just an argument.
It was just an argument about money.
Yeah.
So the preparation and the mentality of the football club.
But that's not a huge loss, no?
Well,
he's the best player in the World Cup.
He's the best. Answer it for me.
Well, he's the best player in the World Cup.
The idea that Rodri was part of the thinking, to me, surprises me. The fact he's gone to Barcelona rather than Real Madrid might be the debate. But as far as I was concerned, Rodri was already out the door. They bought a replacement in him, and Elliot Anderson for him.
Yeah.
Whether he's a natural replacement, we will see. Rodri is a world-class footballer. No doubt about it. He's an absolute Rolls-Royce. And a couple of years ago, he was, to me, an absolute wonder player. I don't think he's quite the same player. And this idea that he was the best player in the World Cup, I don't know where that suddenly come from. But notwithstanding it, he's in the team that won the World Cup.
Well, we're going to hit the first break, but when we come back, I want Arsenal fans to join us, if you would be pleased to do that, and I'm sure you will. What's more difficult, winning the league or defending it? How do you feel at this very, very early stage of what lies ahead? You up for the task? Of course you are. Will you defend it well? Will you win it again? You might just do that. Give us a call. 03717 223344. And Mark, my former postman in Brentford, you got yourself married to Carol in Las Vegas. Well done to both of you. Congratulations. 10:15 and we're back. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown live in talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. That's where the trade goes.
Gabby Eggbong, who joined myself and Drive on Monday, I asked him if he thought Arsenal are to win the league.
Yeah, I do, yeah. I think it's done, mate.
Do you?
Yeah.
What, you think it's over?
Yeah, it's over, mate.
Really?
Yeah. They're that strong, man. They went and brought in Guimaraes as well, mate. Come on.
Yeah, I hear you, right, and I probably don't want to admit it yet.
Yeah.
We ain't even kicked a ball.
I know,
They're
mate.
the only settled football club in the league.
Exactly.
Right? That's what they've got going for them. What do you make of that? Do you feel like, look, you're an Arsenal fan? They had a great season last season.
Yeah.
Are they're the team to beat?
I think of course they're the Premier League champions, they're the favourites, but I wouldn't sit here today, no chance, and say, it's ours easy. No way whatsoever, because there's so many factors last season. I mean, Arsenal finally got over the line. They played a productive way that maybe for some people, I didn't actually mind it. I quite enjoyed watching it, but there were some people that said that they stunk the place out in terms of the way that they played the game, but they did what they needed to get over the line.
Well, they did stink the place out.
Well, no, you didn't.
Well, they did.
How?
Well, they stunk the Premier League out.
You can't stink it out and win it.
No, you can.
Right. No, you can stick it out and finish fourth bottom. Hey, I'll tell you that. You can do that.
You did stink it out.
No,
like, you brought the level of fun down in the Premier League.
For a Gooner, it wasn't.
No, come on. It was turgid, some of the football.
Listen, I loved it, right?
Did you really? You'd hate to play in that team.
No, I wouldn't. What, Premier League winners medal? I wouldn't.
You want to see a bit more exciting football.
People say
like, come on, you've won it now. Arteta's won it. Play a bit more exciting stuff.
People say that, right? Arsenal still scored 71 goals in the league last year. Only Man City scored more.
everybody. Good to be back with you in our normal slot. Of course, 10 till 1. It was 1 till 4, wasn't it, while we were in the US of A for the time change. I'll tell you the time right now. It's 10:20 on this Monday morning, August the 17th. Is it the end of the good weather, the hot weather? I'm not so sure it was good. It certainly got very, very hot, did it not? And it's going to get hot in the coming weeks because the Premier League is back and it's going to kick us all into shape with its return. The World Cup is gone. We've done that. We enjoyed that. We've experienced that, but we're moving on. So much to look forward to. Wonder what Scotland have got to look forward to in their new manager on a 2-year deal. Incoming, Sebastian Pocognoli. Who is he? We'll find out later because Sebastian Pocognoli is going to speak for the first time on getting the Scotland job on this show mid-morning, about 11 o'clock, 11:15. Bill Leckie will join us, top journalist in Scotland. Arsenal Invincible Martin Keown's alongside Simon as we talk about where Arsenal may or may not go this season. Is it their title again? Will they retain it? What's more difficult, winning the league or defending it? Martin, before we go to a bunch of callers, and many Arsenal fans want to call in this morning and coming to air with us, mainly because you are on, Mr. Keown, do you foresee any problems on the horizon towards Arsenal not retaining their title? How do you retain? What is the answer to that question? What's more difficult, winning it again?
Well, I wasn't a part of a group that were able to retain it, but I was never. Well, I don't believe that Arsenal were quite in the dominant position they are right now. So if you think about those years, those formative years under Wenger, in the background we were paying for a new stadium, for a new site, for building in the background. The monies weren't then spent on the team at critical moments. I think that's where things are very different right now for Arsenal. So they're really in a position now of real strength. You know, we've talked about their supporters base, you know, with the outpouring of celebrations around the world, which was like, I think it's taken the club by surprise how big the support base is. And I think the next steps now are to, well, of course, the stadium will be looked at, but who they buy next, recruitment, they can go really big. Vinicius Jr., it was good news that they were in the conversation because that's where they're looking next. And these are the top players.
Did you buy into that,
clubs.
Incidentally? Did you ever think that was going to happen?
No, never thought for a minute it would happen. But what pleased me was that's just the sort of target you want to be going after. And if you're talking in those terms, you're going to new levels. And that's where Arsenal are right now. So it's really key, Jim, that they make the right signings next to take the club to the next level. You're coming into that group now. You're almost having to step into the team, and you're at a high level. Maybe in wide positions, maybe central defence, centre forward, and right back. There might be some business to be done. I don't think Arsenal are finished yet.
Yeah,
and there is a feeling of desire and ambition within the club that I haven't sensed for many years.
What do you need, Martin, in your armoury as a player, as a group, when everybody else is trying to hunt you down? They're going to chase you.
Well, you need to be motivated. You need to be determined, and I saw all of that yesterday from Arsenal. You need to turn up and you set the tone. It's all about behaviour, Jim, and cultural change. You've got a certain group of ethics that you're looking to reach and to stay with in your behaviour, and you're looking for key individuals that lead. I think it comes from the manager, and this is how we behave. You come back into this group. Look, you might have won a World Cup. There's 3 of you that walk in the door.
Right.
I don't care what you've won. You'll go down in history and they'll talk about you forever.
I'm going to put it right to you.
But you win when you're at Arsenal.
Do you see this group retaining this title?
I think they're capable of doing that. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think what they need to do, though, is home in on domestic dominance.
As you
the
know,
Champions League's on the horizon.
Arsenal haven't done it since the 1930s under Herbert Chapman. And no, I didn't know Herbert before you started calling him.
Arsenal, as a football club, don't operate in a vacuum. So they're not in control of what other football clubs can and can't do. They can control what they control.
Yeah.
If Arsenal want to make the next step, then the next step will be dominance of Europe as well, and seeing what PSG have done. Arteta's been there for 6 years. He's built a stable base for himself. He's got the rewards of being supported now by delivering a Premier League title after 2 or 3 false starts. He's now done it, and now we'll see if he can kick on and build a team that can own some degree of control over its own destiny. The irony of it is you see a unique manager like Jurgen Klopp go out the door, and the first Liverpool manager that comes through the door wins the Premier League. It took Klopp a number of years to be able to achieve that, and I think Klopp is one of the best managers the Premier League's ever seen. So no one operates in a vacuum, and whilst Arsenal have got the stability, the continuity, the belief, and all of those things, the Premier League throws out these strange outcomes. Man City, I mean, I don't wish Maresca particularly well. I think he's one of those that needs to be taught a few lessons in life, and hopefully Man City will be the ones that teach him it, because I don't think he operated with any degree of decorum when he was at Chelsea. But I also look at the opportunities that are presented at Liverpool and see where the challenge comes from. It is a unique moment for Arsenal because the challenge doesn't really appear to be quite as visible as it might have done in other incarnations. When Arsenal won the league before, the challenge was there. It was looming across the dugout from Alex Ferguson or whoever else it might have been. And of course, then the arrival of Chelsea and the ownership of Roman Abramovich in 2003 cemented that opportunity. But in this, guys, whilst the money's levelling out, they ain't going to get a challenge from Aston Villa. They ain't going to get a challenge from Newcastle because these poor buggers can't spend the same kind of money that the legacy clubs have made sure that they're the only ones that can spend.
Yeah.
Right? That's the unfairness of that situation. But in the traditional thought process of who's going to challenge Arsenal, they're all in a form of transition. They're all in. Liverpool have got to rebuild.
So you telling me Arsenal will win it again?
Well, you would think that there's a distinct possibility, as Martin rightly says. Nothing is easy, and neither should it be, and neither should we hope it is.
Sure.
Right? But Arsenal are in the box seat.
Yeah.
And I don't want the narrative to be seeded because he'll start crying about it. But the fact is that you don't want them to steal defeat from the jaws of victory because it is theirs to win.
Sure.
They're the defending champions. They're in good nick.
Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that kind of talk.
They're in good nick.
We'll get to some talk with some Arsenal fans very shortly,
the
Martin.
narrative talk last season. Four games in last year, we're saying Arsenal had blown it. Yeah. Like, let's not get into all of that. It's theirs to blow. No. They can enjoy now. There's a new armory.
Who said that?
This is a tough. They are winners, Jim. You cannot dispute that this season.
Well, they are. But let me ask you this before we hit the 10:30 break. Arteta's next evolution are the narratives of boring Arsenal and set piece FC now being wiped aside.
Well, I'm not sure they were there anyway. Because Arsenal, look, as I say, I didn't care if their winning goal came off the
was a strong narrative
the backside of
last season.
Gabriel or not. 25 goals from set pieces. Look, whatever way they found to it, they'll be doing all of that again this year. It's every facet of their play. They'll try and pass the ball. Look how well they passed the ball yesterday when they went 2 or 3 goals up. The handbrake came off yesterday, and they got players in the final third.
Well,
that's the next step.
Do you envisage a style change this season?
Well, I think it's a dominance check, really. They were allowed to play football yesterday. This is what you're up against, isn't it? But no, I mean, the manager wants to go to the next step. That is to control games more.
I think the narrative was clearly there, that people were making it about Arsenal and the way they played. I thought it was slightly unfair. I thought some of the observations that were made by people that should know better were absurd. You know, you had Pardew in here talking about the set-piece team having asterisks after its name because they won the league because they scored a few set pieces. I mean, pack it in, it's absolute drivel. They won the league because they won the league. But what I don't believe is that Arteta wants to play this way. I think he needed to play this way because he'd played very, very expansive football in the previous seasons and got caught in it. He did what he had to do to win. And I think you'll see a natural evolution because I think he's a clever coach that's learnt his trade now, knows his way around, knows his football club, knows what he wants. And there's a real opportunity for Arsenal. They can do what PSG are doing. They can take it to that level. They can be a significant force in Europe if he's supported, which there's no evidence that he's not. I don't think the transfers of Vinicius are good examples. You do not want Vinicius in your dressing room. You do not want someone on 500 grand a week so every other bug in the changing room can think he's underpaid and you can create mayhem in there. What you want is the unit that he's built together with perhaps a few additions, maybe a better centre forward than the kid they've got in there right now.
Okay, let's put it out to Arsenal fans this morning. We're going to kick off with you this morning now that we're back. Why not? You're the champions. You're the fans of the champions. What is the scale of the opportunity that lies ahead for you this season? How big is that opportunity and what does it look like now that you've already shown what you can do against Manchester City? Early days and all. What's more difficult, winning the league or defending it? Give us a call, 03717 2233 344 at 10:30.
The way he was bullying Pacho, he was terrorising that defence. Did he miss chances? Yes, he did. Players at 25 will miss chances, never mind 17. He's going to learn a lot. I don't think you can start saying now he's the next striker after Harry Kane, but you know what you need to do now, Jeff? If I'm the FA, I am fast-tracking him because Luxembourg, no, he's not going to choose Luxembourg, but Cameroon, parents are from Cameroon. They'll be looking at him right now saying, we want to get him in the squad for the Cameroon, get him playing a competitive qualifier so that he can't play for England. So maybe fast track him.
He's made it pretty clear that he wants to play for England, hasn't he?
Yeah, but you never know, do you? There's so many players. I was in that position where I could have played for Scotland, Nigeria, through my parents. His parents are Cameroonian. So if I'm the England setup now, he's been called up to under 17s for friendlies this month. Yeah. I'm fast tracking him even into the 21s. Not straight away now, Jeff, but let's see how he does over the next 2 or 3 months. It won't surprise me if he gets fast-tracked to the 21s. And Thomas Tuchel, the FA, are looking at it and saying, okay, do we get him into the squad? Do we get him a cap in a qualifier, a Nations League game, so that he has to play for England? Because after Harry Kane, how many strikers do we look at and say, whoa, he's the next Harry Kane? I agree. They shouldn't put pressure on him now that he's going to be our next striker after Harry Kane. But that performance last night, even though it's only 60, 70 minutes, he was fantastic. And maybe if he continues and the manager gives him game time this season, we could be looking in 2 years' time, Jeff, at the Euros and saying he's on that plane and he's the cover for Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Sport News.
Morning with the latest news headlines. I'm Emma Smith. Grassroots football could be caught in the drought squeeze just as the new season kicks off. The ongoing dry spell could see watering bans slapped on football and other sports pitches. And it's not just sport. Car washes, window cleaners and private swimming pools could face restrictions too. That's despite some much needed rain being forecast this week. Dr. Jeff DaCosta is a hydrometeorologist at the University of Reading.
In terms of long-term planning, the infrastructure needs severe updating, and I think this needs to happen rather sooner than later.
Meanwhile, water firms could be allowed to hike prices during droughts under plans being considered by Ofwat. That's despite anger over soaring bills and shareholder payouts. Build more homes near stations. That's the message from Housing Secretary Angela Rayner. She's changing planning rules to make it easier to get thousands more homes built within walking distance of train, tram and tube stops. The idea is partly to reduce dependency on cars. Here's Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook.
We think it is right to ensure that we're maximising sustainable development. These are the most sustainable locations in the country for house building, existing transport hubs.
And Bonnie Tyler will be laid to rest in her hometown of Skewen in South Wales later. The singer, best known for the 80s hit Total Eclipse of the Heart, died last month, aged 75.
Talk Sport Sports Headlines with Bostik. For workable, easy to apply mortar that tools easily, pros trust Bostik.
There are fears Man City could finish outside the top four this season. They're after two midfielders before the window shuts. And it's reported Spurs keeper Vicario is off to Juventus. Nick has more at 11.
It is confirmed that Manchester City have received £65.4 million from Barcelona for Rodri. He is now out in Catalonia. Is that right? Catalonia. The 30-year-old had 1 year left on his contract. City wanted him to sign an extension, but Barcelona's third offer proved to be too good to turn down. So he's now out there. So big questions about Manchester City, and we'll start putting these questions to you very shortly. City fans, no doubt, in the mood to do what Arsenal fans are already doing this morning and calling in big numbers. Arsenal off and running, 3-0 winners, of course, yesterday, and they have already notched up the Community Shield by beating City 3-0. What kind of season lies ahead for the Premier League champions? Are they going to do it again? And what's more difficult, winning the lead or defending it? There is Billy, who's a big Arsenal fan. Simon's already trying to create something of a narrative around Arsenal. Are you? Simon's being a bit of a clown this morning, says Billy.
Very good.
Yeah.
Billy Smart.
Billy Smart. For those who don't know, Billy Smart Circus was a very, very big thing in our family. You're not doing that. You're not deliberately trying to create any narrative. Or are you?
What, saying that Arsenal are in the box seat to be able to win the league again? I'm not sure that's a narrative.
I think you said snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
Well, yeah, there was a thought process that if they didn't take this opportunity, and if the vacuum isn't filled succinctly by the other sides, and Arsenal still don't win the league, there is a potential. That I don't think we've seen a Premier League season where you've seen the main three rivals of the team, the incumbent champions, be in such a state of flux.
I thought you said it was Arsenal to lose, Simon.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a narrative.
But it's not a narrative, it's a fact. They're the bloody champions.
Well, you said...
So it's there to lose, isn't it? If you're the defending champions...
Because you say it's a fact, yeah?
No, I say it's because
it's disrespectful to all the other teams that are taking part.
No, it's not. It's an observation based upon the fact they're defending champions. You've just turned around at the beginning of this conversation and suggested that they were in very good nick, in rude health.
There's no divine right of any team to go and win it. You've got to go and earn it.
I didn't say that. What I've said is that if their team is in the best nick and the other three sides that are normally chasing them have new managers, are in transition, I don't think it's a controversial statement to say that, realistically speaking, they're in pretty good order.
Is that not fair, Sam? As it stands right now, Martin.
But you can see that can be perceived, though, can't you, as a narrative, can't you, in certain people's minds?
By foolish people, yeah.
Well,
so away you go.
I don't
Do you
believe
think
that's...
Billy is
Hang on to
foolish? Let's find out what the Arsenal fans think, because we want to hear from them, and we're about to. 03717 223344. Adrian, big Arsenal fan. How did it feel, Adrian, to come out on top so convincingly yesterday?
Hi, mate. Good morning, good gents. How are you all doing?
Good, Adrian. Even better that you've joined us. What do you think? 3-0. Did you expect that yesterday?
No, I didn't really. I thought it'd be settled with penalties or something, but we controlled that completely yesterday. I wasn't expecting Man City to be as poor as they were.
Okay. So what is the scale of opportunity that lies ahead for you?
Well, looking at everybody in the league this season now, right? Man City now looks as if they're going to get rid of Rodri, okay? So they've got a new manager. They're going to be weaker in midfield. They don't seem as the team like they were 2 or 3 seasons ago, right? So looking at Arsenal now, Mikel Arteta has done what he needs to do. He's won a Premier League. It's taken long enough, and I've waited long enough, and Martin has, so I bet he's happy with that. But basically, that team now is solid now, and the players have got a couple of seasons together now where they're used to playing together. That team is settled in now, and it's a bigger squad in the league. Hopefully, if the likes of somebody like Martin Odegaard can stay fit all season, he can produce his form, and he can get the tempo going, like he was back the way he was a few seasons ago.
Excellent. Good to hear from you, Adrian. Thank you so much. Let's hear from Ibs, who's a big Arsenal fan. Ibs, good morning to you. What's Ibs short for, or is Ibs just Ibs?
Good morning, guys. Nice to hear your voices again. Ibs is short for Ibra.
Ibra. Good stuff. Ibra, good morning.
As in Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, good morning. I just want to say, basically, I went on Wednesday to the Emirates, and I saw a team that were just gelling together. Obviously, Bruno's trying to fit in. He had about 45 minutes or so, and same yesterday. But I think, seriously, what we're missing, and I don't know whether you agree with me, Martin, is a striker. I mean, I know we've got Victor Osimhen. Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah.
But we need someone that can actually someone like a Sergio Aguero, an Alexis Sanchez, something like that in that mould. We need someone that can, finish the job off. And Victor Gyökeres, I'm well for it. And I don't know. And the other thing I want to make a point about is when we come to why we sell players at less value than they actually. They're talking about Martinelli going to Galatasaray for 45 million.
It was just hitting a tunnel, I think, just at the wrong moment. What's your take on that, Martin, from what he said earlier? Who is the missing link?
Well, I think we're talking about key signings and what they do next. And obviously that's an area that Simon's talking about, European dominance, never mind domestic dominance, the next step. And of course, the two strikers are under pressure to make that happen. And it may be that someone like Alvarez was a player that they looked at Atletico Madrid last season. They looked about bringing in. That could be the sort of player they're looking at. They need to decide. That's the key at the moment, is these decisions. The ambition is there, but they've got to make key signings at the right times. And if you want to win the Champions League, we know you've got to go to another level, Jim.
Yeah.
You know, Solis did exceptionally well yesterday, got 2 assists in the game, but that will be an area they want to. Martinelli didn't take to the pitch. He wasn't involved in the group. Does that tell me he's on his way? I don't know. But maybe that's an area they want to strengthen in wide areas to be really super strong in those.
Keith, I'm coming to you very shortly. This is Matt, who's a big Arsenal fan. Welcome back, guys. Good to have you back. Well, thanks for that, Matt. I'm a season ticket holder. I was at Cardiff yesterday. Simon, this morning, is 100% correct because this is Arsenal's to lose. I thought winning the league would crack Martin. Not another season with him like this. Please, let's go forward. So, I mean, there's a guy who's with you on that. This is Arsenal's to lose.
Well, it's not. I mean, for me to say that I'm creating a narrative would have to suggest that I'm hugely invested in the well-being of Arsenal, because I'm not. I'm just calling it as I see it. I mean, 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, we were listening to Arteta talk about his performance against Betis, and how they were poor in a pre-season friendly. Arsenal are in good shape. What is the problem with that? They're in really good nick. They should be the team to beat this year, which is the same thing as saying it's theirs to lose, because they're the defending champions. They're the ones with the incumbent manager.
I'm with you on that.
And this idea that you have to go to another level, well, PSG didn't go to another level.
Yeah.
PSG changed their whole game plan.
So Keith,
they went away from superstar players into building a team.
Simon, we know Keith, don't we? Big Arsenal fan. Keith, good morning. I mean, Arsenal,
good morning, guys.
Undeniably, they're in
guys.
good shape, mate, aren't they?
Let's see what happens when the season begins. I don't take anything from pre-season. I don't take anything from the Community Shield. Yeah, it's nice to see them lift a bit of silverware, but we know what it is. It means nothing. By the way, Simon, to say they should, there's no shoulds. We start from 0 points, as does every other team. It's not theirs to lose. Once you have a target on your back, everyone's out to get you. You know, it is very hard to defend the title. Why is it that I've had this argument? In fact, I questioned Arsene Wenger on it a few years ago. For me, the greatest football player ever is Diego Maradona. However, why is it that he told me that Messi is the greatest? Because of longevity, i.e. repeating your great feats over and over and over. I don't necessarily agree with that, but the truth is the way a team is defined really is about being able to repeat it over and over, creating an era of dominance. Now, it's not theirs to lose, because, as I said, everyone starts on 0 points. There's no shoulds. Arsenal, I think, still need to strengthen. Last season, we lacked a little bit of creativity in the final third. That needs to be addressed. But, yeah, I'm excited. I think we've got a very, very good mood in the squad. And I think that's, if you've got a happy squad, I think you've got a dangerous squad. And I think that is where we perhaps edge it over others.
But Keith, in all honesty, do you not foresee a huge opportunity that lies ahead of you?
Look, everybody's strengthening. You know, look how much Chelsea spend. I mean, Arsenal were very keen on Morgan Rogers. I think rightfully so. They didn't go out and spend ridiculous money on him. You have to, when you go into an auction or whatever it is you go and buy, or you want to buy a house, you need to know where. Not let emotion get ahead of your rationale. I think that Arsenal still needs strengthening. Last season, if there was an area which I was worried about, it was our ability to break down teams who sat back. We didn't have that little creative bit of sprinkle of golden dust in that final third. And that's where I'd like to see Arsenal improve.
Yeah,
the other thing is our best players, you know, played the World Cup through injury. Saka, Wright, Saliba. Saliba is such an important player. He's out now for a while. He's arguably, I'd say those three are probably our most important players, apart from Odegaard, who I love. I think that the World Cup could play its part in where this league title ends this season. It's a big thing. Footballers get paid enormous amounts of money, but they've still got human bodies which break down. And I actually think that is where the possibility is, where you may see little chinks in the armour.
A lot of good points here. Keith, before you leave us, if anyone is going to challenge Arsenal, and of course there will be those who will, who are the prime contenders there?
Well, it's going to be City, Chelsea, Manchester United, I would say. And I think, actually, by the way, I think Tottenham will do better this season. I think there's a good chance they could end up 16th, actually. I think that could be something that would be a huge improvement for them. But no, in all seriousness,
like it.
You know, the usual suspects.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you very much indeed, Keith. As for Man City, on the wrong end of a 3-0 result yesterday, how long will the post-Pep excuse last for Enzo Maresca? We'll get into that next. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse, where the trade goes.
talkSPORT's Matt Scott, the guy who just heard doing the news there, talking absolute guff because he rattled some cages this morning on breakfast. He listed off the top 10 biggest clubs in the UK. He said Chelsea cheated their way to success, can't be in the top 10, and Spurs have never won a Champions League. So, and he's put them, he's not even in the top 10. They finished 17th for like 2 seasons in a row. I think he needs to remember that Nottingham Forest ain't been in the Premier League for about 15 seasons. So, anyway, Rory, we've asked you to do your top 10. What did you make just on Matt Scott's Chelsea not being in the top 10?
Yeah, I mean, look, before we get into this, I think it's important that I just establish something very quickly. Matt Scott is my friend.
Yeah.
He's somebody who I rate incredibly highly. I think he's got a huge future, and I like him. It is one of the worst things I've ever heard in my entire life, though. All of that being said, now, I think we can just go for the jugular, be completely honest.
Yeah.
It gave me a migraine.
Yeah.
I feel like listening to that list, I've lost IQ points. Having heard that, I'm now thicker because it is the worst list I've ever heard of anything.
No, some bad takes on talkSPORT, and we're all likely to come out with some nonsense every now and then. And
you are. Speak for yourself.
No, you
speak
are
for
as
yourself.
well.
No,
and you know, you can back your argument. But when I heard Bill sent me the list, and I just was just like,
yeah, everything about the list, everything about the list was wrong.
There's clickbait, and then there's just you're talking absolute. Yeah,
it's like
ridiculous guff.
It's lunacy. It's like, should Matt Scott be reading the news, being on talkSPORT, or should he be in Broadmoor?
this early stage. Yep, we're back Monday morning, but thanks to so many of you getting in touch with the show this morning. Honestly, it humbles us. We're thrilled about it. Keep it coming. We can hear from Manchester City fans if you want to join us. 03717 223344. Manchester City, what kind of season do you think lies ahead for you? Because now Rodri overnight has gone. He has joined up at Barcelona, and of course, and he will play there from this point onwards alongside the likes of Anthony Gordon. Pep Guardiola has gone. So it's Enzo Maresca's Manchester City. Following Pep, is it the impossible task or the greatest inheritance of all? How long will the post-Pep excuse last for Maresca? Well, yesterday, he came down to earth with a thump. First game in charge and beaten by Arsenal 3-0. This was Maresca post-match.
In general, I'm always concerned, even when we win games. So imagine now that we didn't win the game, but we just start. This is the beginning. We have many things that we need to do better. But again, I think it was good reaction after the first goal we conceded, and now try to reset, analyze the game, and think from Tuesday about next game.
So, Simon, he's not top of your popularity list, Enzo Maresca. He might get there, things might change. But following Pep, is it the impossible task or is it the greatest inheritance? And in this case, the inheritor is...
Depends how good you are, doesn't it?
The man who's inheriting it.
Depends how good you are. If you are a very good manager, then you have an opportunity. I mean, it is remarkably difficult to follow someone that's achieved the things that Guardiola achieved, from changing the style of play to dominating the Premier League to creating outcomes that very few people could see being overlaid onto the Premier League. So that is the legacy that he has to follow. And the expectation of Man City is to continue winning. So he's been brought in to continue doing that. In the same way, to some extent, the people that followed Alex Ferguson had the challenge. I think the United side of 2013 was ageing, and I don't think he left a great squad behind him, although there'll be dispute about that, and people have different recollections, and recollections may vary.
Yeah.
But I look at this and say, it's a hell of a task for him, because I'm not sure that one season in charge of Chelsea, after being elevated from a championship manager to a Premier League manager, winning the World Club Championship, which in some people's minds changed the whole hubris they exhibited and turned him into a manager that was having tantrums at the end of his tenure, to get out the door to go to Man City, are blueprints. But notwithstanding that, people learn. We all evolve. What you do a year ago or 2 years ago isn't perhaps what you do now. I think it's a very difficult task, because you are going to be endlessly, whether you like it or you don't like it, whether you think it's a narrative or you don't, you're going to be compared to what's been done previously.
What you're saying to me, a difficult task, so it's beyond him, is it?
I don't know how good a manager he is. I mean, I don't know how good a manager he is. I think he did okay at Chelsea. I think there were times when the Chelsea fans were dissatisfied with the style of play that he had. I think he had a few bite-backs. I think he won the World Club Championship and it gave us some extra gravitas. The European Conference League, with due respect to my old club that have won it. Come on, Chelsea are a club that spend hundreds of millions of pounds. They should be able to win the European Conference League. So what are we benchmarking him against? The reasons why he's the Man City manager is not because he won the World Club Championship at Chelsea. It's because he was in the camp back in the day under Guardiola. They've got a relationship with him. They clearly think he's a pretty good successor.
Sure. But this thing, though, Simon, following Pep, are we going to sit here in January and say City unexpectedly get beaten at home by somebody? And you'll say to me, yeah, but he's following Pep.
No, but we saw Pep Guardiola have his challenges. We saw the wheels come right off 18 months ago for Guardiola. And all of a sudden, this man that could do no wrong, this man that could turn water into wine, suddenly found his own challenges. Suddenly found a team that was not in good order, that suddenly was getting beaten by everybody. And everyone went, what the hell's going on here? And they expected this resurgence from Guardiola. And they didn't quite get it, did they? I mean, ultimately, going out the door, Guardiola doesn't go out with the kind of rewards that you would have anticipated his tenure would have got. They didn't win the league. His last season was won by Arsenal. It probably was already predetermined. Given the fact that that Man City were wanting Maresca in October, November, that's half the reasons why the rancor between Chelsea, Man City and Maresca developed.
Yeah.
It was already predetermined. The only people that didn't know was the viewing public. But it was determined, I would imagine, that Guardiola was going. So his last season, I don't know, would he see that as a massive success?
Well, he's a Club World Cup winner, isn't he? Maresca.
Do you know what?
I mean, is he in for a free hit this season?
Well, look, I think he needs to. He wasn't very visual from the sidelines in terms of his leadership. He took a calm approach yesterday. I'm pretty well certain he was seething on the inside because he wasn't really getting the reaction that he wanted. Diaz, the new captain, we assume he's the new captain, apologised to the fans. said it wasn't acceptable. It was the first sort of take that I had from the football club, from the standards that they've set, because they've been remarkable over a number of years. Now, if I'm a player in that dressing room, something, Simon, that you talked about former players not having any real bottle and whatever else it is. But I'll tell you what I'd be doing in that dressing room. I said, I don't care who the manager was previously. I personally am not happy with that performance. Are we going to stand up and be counted? The new manager doesn't seem to say too much publicly. He might be saying stuff on the inside, but nonetheless, we've been used to winning. And it didn't look like a football team yesterday. They didn't look like they were together. There was no connections in the final third. This beautiful football they played, it's gone. It disappeared. So we got to bring that back. So key players and leadership needs to be found within that dressing room. Decimated, by the way, Bernardo Silva, Stones, Rodri. These are all key leaders. De Bruyne, Walker, everyone the year before. Gundogan. You can't keep pulling players out. Now, you look at Marmoush, you look at Reinders. Have they got that same sense of club? You know, this is our club. We've got to start to build again. The manager's going to be a part of that. He has to get key individuals in. That's why Chelsea have gone out and bought Henderson and Welbeck and different people. They want certain people in the building, okay, they can rely upon. Maybe they shouldn't have let some of these guys go, but they're gone now. Rodri, I wouldn't have allowed him to leave. I know it's an awful lot of money for a 30-year-old, and they kept coming back, but he's a key individual that's now lost, because you've lost Pep. This is one of the all-time greatest ever managers. So this is difficult. But nonetheless, this new manager has to start to lead, and I didn't really see the leadership there.
Can we discount City now?
No, not at all. Not at all, because they've still got that power base. They've still got good players there. Look, he's gone with Foden in the 10. You know, it was that the Pep wasn't really using him there. So he's got Grealish back in again. He's open to give people an opportunity. But if they don't perform, he'll make changes, and I'm certain of that. But he didn't look like he had rolled his sleeves up yet. He's just in the door, Jim. And it's probably the most difficult time to take over after a World Cup with the international players rolling in. But they're not excuses now. He's got to massive improvement between now and Bournemouth for the weekend.
The thing is, it will be an excuse. It will be an excuse if Maresca and City don't do anything much this season. It's got to be the excuse that, well, he was following Pep. And it's a transitional season.
Is it an excuse or is it an observation? I mean, you make an observation. I make an observation about the lack of resilience of players in comparison with a podcast that Martin didn't watch. So you've got to get context into things, right? The fact of the matter is that you've got to get things into perspective. If someone explains something and it's a legitimate explanation, is that an excuse? I don't know. I mean, Martin makes some very good points, which stunned me. The amount of players that are going out the door create. I mean, Rodri. It's unbelievable to me that Rodri. A year ago, they knew he was going into his last contract. Now, you would have thought that Man City would have been negotiating with Rodri last year, so you didn't get to this position. So clearly, they'd made decisions in their own mind, and that might well have been because Rodri knew that Guardiola was going to go, so he wanted to go out when he went. We don't know these things, but what you can believe is that Man City are not fools. They've brought in good players. I mean, we're not sitting here looking at a side sitting on their hands. They've gone and spent 130 million quid on Elliot Anderson. Whatever you think of that, whatever you don't think of that, they've gone out and bought a player that many people were very impressed with in the World Cup. And so, do I think Man City are going to be naturally together in the same way that Arsenal could and should be? Because they're a team now. Arsenal are a team. The one component part that was missing from Arsenal's psyche was winning. They've now crossed that Rubicon. So that's why I make the point, and it might be clumsily made, that it's theirs to lose, because I think they're the best team in the division with the best manager right now, with the best cohesive setting. So in my mind, that puts you in a box seat, like Muhammad Ali used to say, if you're the best in the business, say you're the best in the business. Where's the shame in that?
Simon, your point was beautifully made. Not clumsily made, beautifully made. Monday morning, and we are back. Pat and Rod walking around Lucca in Italy. You're listening in. Thanks for that. Thanks for the message. We are up and running. Be good to listen to some of the viewpoints that Manchester City fans have got at this stage, because it all kicks off this weekend. What kind of season do you envisage lies ahead? And this following Pep, the impossible task or the greatest inheritance? How long will the post-Pep excuse last for Maresca? You might want to give us your view on that. 03717 223344. So much happens in the world of football, of course. We know that Infantino has run into a few problems. Is he going to make it to the 2027 FIFA presidential elections? But much more important than that, Sebastian Pocognoli has been announced as a new Scotland manager. It's a 2-year deal. We'll hear from him. Oh yeah, it's all happening.
there's a bit of housery about it. And since Cucurella's gone, I kind of like that housery.
Oh no, I think it's a great quality. I think if you're talking about a footballer strictly on the pitch here, and you use words like, oh, he's snide, he's snarling, he's aggressive. These are good words to use about a footballer. I want players to be like that. I think Chelsea have been a little bit too nice over recent years, and I think having somebody that is a little bit more on the front foot is a good thing. Enzo Fernandez, we've seen it. Like when he scored that goal against Paris Saint-Germain, he's running off towards their ultras, showing them the Club World Cup badge. Whenever we play Manchester United, he's got Mason Mount round the throat. Like he understands what Mason Mount's relationship with Chelsea fans is, and he leans into that. There are qualities to Enzo Fernandez, no doubt, but I'd 100% want him out of the club and 100% take the money.
Okay, Sean?
I totally agree. I do like him as a footballer, but his heart's not in it. And from the minute he started to tout himself around in terms of I want to play for Madrid, you know what? Guess what? Go. The player I want to see fit is Lavia. Now, when I don't think you remember between towards the end of December 2024, we almost went to the top of the league. And the reason why that is because Lavia was playing superbly. The one thing wrong with Lavia, when he injures an eyelash, he's out for about 6 months. So we need to keep him fit. And if we can keep him fit, when he was playing, Fernandez wasn't even playing because they played Casado at right back, and he was the main man running the show. And when we went to Spurs and we turned them over, right, he was the main reason.
talkSPORT Sports Update with NordVPN, now with built-in next-gen antivirus that automatically detects malicious links, websites and files.
With your headlines at 3 minutes past 11, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. It hasn't happened since 2010, but there are concerns Man City could finish outside the top four this season.
If you lose that intensity that Pep's put into this team, Pep had a culture at the team that was quite incredible, how he drove the team.
City manager Stuart Pearce fears a drop in intensity under Maresca, but we're told they are closing in on signing young Morocco midfielder Ayoub Bouadi and are going after Enzo Fernandez, with the outgoing Rodri expected in Barcelona.
He's agreed a 4-year deal. They're going to sell Dejani Reinders as well. Those transfer fees combined will be enough to match Chelsea's £120 million asking price for Enzo Fernandez.
Our chief football correspondent Alex Crook expects a new Man City bid for Enzo soon. Spurs keeper Vicario is off to Juventus on loan, while Jamie Vardy is wanted in Brazil. All the latest on that one at talksport.com. Following Arsenal's easy 3-0 win over City in the Community Shield, Martin Keown's encouraged the Premier League champions can go again.
Obviously, that's a born out of the culture within the club. The manager's really pleased. You can see there's been a really good reaction. Ødegaard is back in the building, is ready to go. He's the captain. He's the player whose position's under most threat, and he played a big part in the game yesterday.
Arsenal host Coventry live on talkSPORT on Friday as the Premier League returns following that win over City in the Community Shield. And Team GB's new sprint queen Amy Hunt's admitted she only practiced changeovers with Zarnel Hughes an hour before winning the 4x100 mixed relay.
It is a very chaotic changeover, and obviously we have to kind of mark out our check mark and put down the tape. And when I got told the kind of marks for mine, because I had one of the fastest men in the world running into me, it was quite fast.
Hunt won a record 4 goals at the European Championships. Her interview is up on the talkSPORT YouTube.
talkSPORT News.
Grassroots football could be caught up in new water restrictions, and Virgin Trains gets the green light for European routes. Emma has more on that in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Sort your new tyres this summer at a time that suits you best from the comfort of your home or work 7 days a week with our mobile tyre fitting service. Conditions apply.
North cloudy with outbreaks of rain. That rain getting heavier across Northern Ireland and Western Scotland this afternoon. Further south, warm and humid as hazy sunshine develops. Expects more showers across the country this week.
Good morning, everybody. 6 minutes past 11 o'clock, and we are back on the morning of Monday, August the 17th. It's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan, and it's Arsenal Invincible Martin Keown live on talkSPORT, courtesy of Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. We had a fantastic World Cup. Really enjoyed our experience over in New York, and now we're back to get into it for real. Another big domestic season coming up. And the big question is anybody out there capable of toppling Arsenal, who look very good even at this early stage in the season? So much going on. Sebastian Pocognoli has been announced as the new Scotland manager. It's a 2-year deal. Who is he? Where does he come from? And what has he got about him? To get that job, of course, takes over from Steve Clarke. We're going to be hearing from top Scottish journalist Bill Leckie very shortly. But Simon, so much has happened while you and I, Martin and others, were away sunning ourselves. And to that extent, I want to get your view. I'm desperate to get your view on what has happened post-World Cup. The last we heard of Gianni Infantino, he was being toasted as very much the man in world football, the man at the top of FIFA, the man being held shoulder high after what has been described as the most successful World Cup ever over in the US of A. Argentina, much to the delight of most people who love and watch football, losing the World Cup final to Spain in the end. Justice served out on that one. But now we know that last month, the same Gianni Infantino scrapped plans to open up parts of FIFA's tournament business, including the World Cup, to private investors. Infantino offered each of FIFA's 211 member associations £30 million if they backed the private investment plan. It caused an enormous backlash, with UEFA opposing the proposal and European nations threatening to boycott future tournaments if the plan went ahead. There were those who were backing him. There were those who very much were against him. And since then, Infantino has been fighting for his job, with associations withdrawing their support for his 2027 re-election bid. What do you make, Simon, of what you witnessed first and foremost in terms of what Infantino was trying to do?
Well, I mean, again, I sort of sat on the sidelines watching it in Spain, thinking about it and thinking about what kind of system produces people like Infantino that believe they can operate in a certain way, because the system is as much at fault as the individual making certain decisions, because he's empowered in his own mind and by the circumstances and by the power that football seems to generate in certain people, that it gets them drunk on their own ideals. Of course, it's not right to sell to private equity. Of course, it's not right to sell to private investment. It changes the whole landscape of what's happening. I mean, people will go out on their confected outrage about it's not his to sell. We know all that. But the idea that somehow he thought he could fly this kite and actually felt it was going to land in the space that he wanted to is perplexing to me, because I could read the headlines before the headlines were written about the narrative that would have been created. This would have been a narrative about how football was being sold to take away the heart of the game. If you think that what you saw in the World Cup with Balogun was an example of the way that the football was going with influence and power, imagine what would have happened if this deal had have gotten underway, and how football would have changed and the rules would start to change, because if suddenly those investors decide that the direction of travel for sport wasn't quite as lucrative as they wanted it to be, and they needed to change the way sport was played, where it was played, how it was played, this particular sport, football, then you would have seen that happen. So of course it was flawed. But the thing that struck me as the most strange was Infantino, whatever you think of him, right, is a master politician. He's engineered himself into a position of great influence, power and authority, yet played his hand in such a way that it was almost perplexing, because it's an act of self-harm. He has created an outcome for himself that now leads to the headlines that we're now talking about, which is fighting for his job. Why would somebody so wired in, so plugged in, create such challenges for himself if he wasn't given an indication that that was potentially an opportunity that football might have wanted to go in this direction? Now, the devil will be in the detail. And we are not across a lot of the detail. While some of the papers have been brilliant, and I don't dispute it, whether it be Martin Ziegler and other people that have gotten hold of things and amplified them so that people can look at it through a certain prism, there is more detail and there is more substance. And I kind of reserve my desire to jump on the phone and be part of talkSPORT or any other media outlet talking about this, because I think there's more to it than what we've just seen. People talk about deadlines. Of course you set deadlines. You have to set deadlines to people, because otherwise people don't work towards anything. So this idea, if you haven't done it by September the 19th, why did it have to be done by September the 19th or whenever it was? Because that's how you set people KPIs and you set people with call to actions to get things done. But the nature of what was being suggested is absurd.
What's more offensive, Simon?
I'm not offended by it. I just think it's ridiculous.
No, but the football world is. What's more offensive,
Well,
the plan itself, or the fact that he didn't consult a soul and suddenly announced it?
Well, to some extent, leaders lead, and depends who you think he needs to consult. Now, obviously, in life, you have democracies, and then you have people that make decisions. In the end of the day, you have a conversation with a few trusted people, and then you make a decision. Now, what I would ask people to think about is why, again, insofar as if they want to, why would Infantino put himself in such an invidious position? Why would somebody that seems to understand the opportunities that exist through football, because he spent an inordinate amount of time cozying up to Trump. We've seen Trump talking about him, proposing him for the General Secretary of the United Nations. The direction of travel for Infantino seems to be set in other different spaces and places, but he knows, as we discussed previously, that he's sitting on top of an enormous power base.
Yeah.
Why would you create an outcome like this that can only go one direction?
Well, maybe
you are now in
mentioned
jeopardy.
it. Maybe you mentioned it. Did he get
Drunk on
seduced
power.
by drunken power? Is it the company he's been keeping?
I think he was looking, Jim. He was
Rubbing
looking, he
shoulders
was
with
looking to
Trump.
distribute wealth, wasn't he, across third world countries to develop football. And look, they've got billions of pounds anyway. I think the thing is the lack of transparency, lack of governance. People aren't happy with that. This guy's just doing things on his own. He's not even consulting from within, so it seems.
Well, he has to in the end, doesn't he? Because ultimately he puts it to the he doesn't. He may not consult with the process of how it goes into the media, but he still has to consult in the end, because the federations will vote for it or vote against it.
Yeah.
So he can't just autocratically push it through. And of course, when you talk about what he does with this, if you spend 50 million quid or 100 million quid to one of these third, where do you think those votes are going to go in the future? They're going to go with him. So there's a whole raft of things that make you feel that not only was it a ridiculous position, but it was also about shoring up his own position.
Yeah. I mean, you once said the Super League is dead. Is this dead?
I didn't say that. I've never said the Super League was dead. I've never been anybody that was against the Super League, besides the fact that it lacked meritocracy. And once you remove that off the table, then what was the problem with it?
Is this dead? This has got Super League vibes to it.
Yeah, I think the Super League was a commercial entity that had one thing against it, which was the fact that it didn't allow people to be relegated or promoted into it. Right. Once that was removed, what was it? It was just another Champions League and another guys. And I mean, UEFA are having a field day. Let's not lose sight of what UEFA are.
Yeah, but they're right to have a field day.
Well, because FIFA opened the door for it. Because UEFA don't like the transgression into their space with the World Club Championship. They don't like the overreach from FIFA. So let's not lose sight of what UEFA are, because they aren't the panacea to all the ills of football. Ceferin is running around like a dog with two proverbials right now, because he's able to land blows on Infantino left, right and centre. But the fact of the matter is they aren't the shining blue chip of an organisation either. They're better than FIFA right now, because FIFA have taken a decision to look at sport in a certain way and elevate and escalate. And of course it's wrong. And if there's so much money to be made, why would you want to discount money to bring it forward, to be able to give commercial entities massive returns on the back end if the money's going to be there anyway?
So many have turned on Infantino, though, Simon. UEFA, Asia, CONCACAF. Infantino can't carry on, can he?
You'll be surprised. You'll be surprised what people can do. I mean, we are in danger of sitting inside an environment where tornadoes whirl and the next day it's chip packets and people forget about it. I would suggest that Infantino's days are probably numbered, but they're numbered for a variety of reasons, that there'll be better opportunities for him in other walks of life and other opportunities, but also because for some reason, and it's yet to reveal itself, it's like the old, what's it, Al Pacino, our true enemy's yet to reveal himself. The idea that we know the full length and breadth of why Infantino, and it might be like simplistic as we've just detailed, which is these people in football, we've all been inside it, institutionalised, you get carried away with your own importance. I think you're more bleeding important than you are. But the irony of it is that sport, and specifically football, is massively important. It's geopolitically important. It's economically important. It changes the landscapes of people's opportunities in life, and not just inside the sport, all the peripheral industries that hive off the back of it. And when Infantino the sort of acorn-headed buffoon that he is at times, sits there making these observations about the size and scale of this industry, he's undercooking it. He's undercooking what the scale is. We're talking about 500 million people in the world play football on a regular basis. 1 in 16 people in the world's population play football. This is the scale of this industry. Forget the NFL and the NBA and all these American projects that are sitting inside their sports framework. Sport and football is the biggest sport in the world. And so the opportunities that exist and the power that comes from it is enormous. But he's overplayed his hand. And I don't understand why he would do it so foolishly, besides the explanation that we've made, which is you've got carried away with the company you've kept.
So the FIFA elections take place next year. Is he going to make it until then?
Depends if he reads the room. If he reads the room and thinks he's not going to make it, then he'll resign.
So he creates a World Cup of what, 62 teams for the next time?
64.
64.
Well, it could be 62. It'd be strange, wouldn't it? 64. But why? But I'm not against that. I mean, I'm not against the fact that the World Cup. I am against selling the heart of football, not against scaling up the tournament to be even more compelling. That's two different arguments.
See, I thought you were going to come back at me on this with your capitalist hat on.
Nah.
But you think, no, hang on, football's not for sale to anyone.
But football is for sale, but for the right outcomes.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with capitalism. There's everything wrong with irresponsible capitalism.
He's making billions of pounds anyway, isn't he? So it's that distribution of that wealth, Jim, to the various FAs around the world.
If you could ask Infantino one question this morning, Simon, what would it be? What would it be?
Step aside and let Arsene Wenger run FIFA. There's the next president.
That's more of a statement than a question. But you would want Wenger to run it.
It's a statement wrapped up in a question. Why wouldn't you? If you want the best for sport. I mean, I disagree with some of Arsene Wenger's principles about having a World Cup every 2 years, but that might be because he was influenced by the mechanics of the environment he found himself in.
You say to Infantino, step aside, let Wenger do it.
I think Wenger was the closest thing to a CEO as a football manager that you had in football. And whether people like Graham Souness think he's a football man is a different discussion, right? But the point is that he's thinking when and he will know, and he knows him better than everybody in this room. Of course he does. But I spent some time with him, and he is a very, very bright man and a very connected man. And football, the sport of football,
He did disassociate himself with Infantino's idea to do this.
Eventually,
well, yeah, but because he was on holiday. But he was nothing to do with him, is what he's saying. But no, it's not such a bad idea.
Disassociate myself from you.
What is the material benefits of what Infantino was actually doing?
Yeah.
When you actually look at it and say, all I'm doing is bringing forward some advance monies. I mean, FSG have sold some of their media rights in Liverpool to be able to raise money for themselves and for a media project. It's done left, right, and centre. But you can do that in a commercial business. You're the bleeding regulator. You can't sell the commercial interests of the sport that you're supposed to regulate. You're the regulator. You're the governance. You're not a commercial entity that runs a football club and can buy it and sell it as he sees fit.
Yeah.
You're the governing body. You can't do that.
What did he do? Did he lose his mind or get above his station?
Who knows? I mean, we will find out over a period of time. It is power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, doesn't it? But it's a whole raft of things. But it's malfeasant in its thinking and it's misconstrued.
Okay. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown live on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
What, €1 for one Prem?
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
two.
Obviously.
You're swapping two, Jay. You are.
I don't know.
Jay, you are.
Maybe two. Don't know, though. Like, them nights as a final, you've been in cup finals. Them nights, you never give them
Jay,
up.
I've been two. And do you know what? I don't want to bring it up, yeah? You cost me one of them.
What do you mean I cost you one of them?
You missed the pen.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. I didn't see you taking one.
I said to Harry, I'll take one.
No.
Five.
No. Let's have this out. Don't be blaming me for your Carabao Cup loss, all right? Because I took the first pen and Darren Bent was nowhere to be seen.
And I'm going to tell you the exact truth of what happened. At the time, I was a penalty taker. I said to Harry, I'll take one. He said, no, you take five. I went,
no, Robin King took five.
No, I was supposed to take five.
Right.
And he said, you took one. So it never got to me. I never got to take one.
Yeah, but the fifth penalty on that night was Robbie Keane.
No, it's me.
Nah, you're lying.
Ask Keano. I don't know if you can remember, but...
Nah, you're lying.
I was five.
You're lying.
I was a penalty taker at the time. So
why don't you take one?
Because I said to Harry, he said, no, five.
Nah, I disagree, mate. I think you bottled it.
Hey, listen. Have you seen the pen, Bill?
I
did not cost you a Carabao Cup.
You did, mate.
Where were you in the 90
that,
mins?
That could have been 2, mate. That could have been 2 for me. That, but no. Cheers, Jake.
That still haunts me. That does.
Does it?
Yeah, it hurts my feelings. I think about it a lot.
Ben Foss had the game of his life, mate.
Yeah.
He won man of the match that game as well.
Mate, it hurts. That game's on as well all the time. They play that game a lot. It's such a bad game.
Do you know what, right? I don't really like giving you credit, but I felt for you in the first one because you were playing well in that period.
Oh, I know.
And he left you out completely.
Yeah,
I felt for you in that.
Yeah, that hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
So the Premier League is back, and it's back this weekend. And for Newcastle, it's an opening game at St James's Park against Liverpool. Looking forward to that. But, of course, it's all change, is it not, at Newcastle? Various players, various key players, Anthony Gordon, Bruno Guimaraes have gone. But Eddie Howe left the football club after nearly 5 years in charge, having taken them from a relegation battle to 2 Champions League qualifications and a Carabao Cup win. Their first domestic trophy in 70 years. I don't know if you knew that, Simon. They won the Carabao Cup.
Someone told me about it once upon a time, yes.
You found out in a big way that we went ballistic that morning regards Newcastle, and I don't make any apology for it because Newcastle fans loved that moment. We also did that when Crystal Palace won the FA Cup, incidentally. But anyway, Eddie Howe has come and gone, and I messaged Eddie to wish him well, and he got back to me as Eddie would do because he's a gentleman. But Howe said his decision was his, following a period of personal reflection, and he felt the time had come to step away. After nearly 5 years of giving my life, heart and soul into the club with unrelenting energy, I feel that it's in the best interest of both myself and the club to step away, recharge and take a break. Incoming 38-year-old German Matthias Jessel. Now, Konstantin Eckner, a top German journalist, is in town. He'll join us, maybe tell us a bit more about this gentleman, Matthias Jessel, who arrived from Al Ahly in Saudi Arabia after previously winning 2 Austrian league titles with RB Salzburg. Did you see this coming, Simon? Because you always said on this show, Eddie maybe wasn't the man to deliver the big baubles to Newcastle United and their fans. But who's going to be?
Well, I said it for a number of reasons, because I felt that Newcastle weren't going to be in a position to challenge the legacy clubs because they're not being allowed to. It's grotesquely unfair. What the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Manchester Uniteds, the Man Cities, the Spurs have now created is a cartel of which they can only become the members. And they can spend as much money as they wish and no one else can, because they can generate the turnover because they're now seeded. So Aston Villa and Newcastle can get on with it. And they've got they can't do what Chelsea did. They can't do what Man City did, which was break up the orthodoxy of Arsenal and Manchester United and to some extent Leeds back in the day in the 70s, albeit that was a briefer period, because they can't buy their way into the positions that Man City and Chelsea were able to do. So they've got to go a different route. And football doesn't allow it now, because as soon as Newcastle started to get some traction, the best players want to go to the bigger football clubs, Isak being case in point.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a reflection of just Eddie's capabilities. I felt he'd be a gatekeeper, and he got them a League Cup, and fantastic for Newcastle that he got a League Cup. But when you heard the clumsy utterings of the chief executive of Newcastle not being able to support
David Hopkinson,
Eddie Howe, in terms of when he was asked about the manager, you could read the room to some extent. And then Newcastle's form as a team over the last 12 months has been very patchy and very hit and miss. So I'm not surprised that he took the initiative himself, Eddie. My only disappointment, and you don't want to hear me say this very often, is that he doesn't get the opportunity to replace Tuchel, who I think thoroughly deserves to be drop-kicked out of the England manager's job for that appalling performance in that World Cup semi-final.
You still think in the past, you still think Tuchel should go?
I think it was an absolute degradation of his duties and the responsibilities, and the very reason he was brought there was to do something different. And of course, it doesn't help me with my argument that substantiates the Southgate myth that he was so wonderful.
But what qualifies Eddie? Because he's English.
I think he's a very capable manager, and I'd like to see. I'm not xenophobic against anyone else managing our national side.
No.
I would, in an ideal world, I would like the best person.
Is Eddie?
Did he ever have just Eddie Howe?
I thought Tuchel was. And I'm not sure I'm right.
So Eddie Howe, based on what you said when he took the job, then,
yeah,
did he exceed your expectations?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that takes him down to a new level.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think actually, Jim, I think he's been very unfortunate what's gone on at that football club, because he built one hell of a team.
He did.
And it was dismantled around him. And I think the recruitment in the last 2 or 3 windows has been appalling, really, in comparison to what they were putting together. You can't lose Isak. I mean, that debacle was, maybe he played a part in that as well, right? Because he tried to hold on to him perhaps too long. Affected both clubs. Liverpool didn't really come out well with that one. Tonali leaving, Bruno, Gordon. Outstanding talents. You can't be better when you're losing players of that quality.
Difficult.
Recruitment. I know there's this financial fair play, and that's like none of the faults of Manchester United and Arsenal. And all, they've got massive turnovers. It's not their fault. Villa, by the way, Villa have managed to deal and still stay in this top 4 situation in a better way than Newcastle.
You can't build a team to challenge in perpetuity and be a top side if you are constantly under. I mean, Villa have done massive deals with UEFA to be able to get themselves in a position where they can continue to observe the compliance that they're being asked to comply with. But Manchester United, and it is absolutely the fault of the Man United and Arsenal, because they dressed up the idea of financial fair play as some governance to retain the sanity of the game, and it's nothing of the sort.
Now it's unfair.
It's pulling up the drawbridge and saying to everybody else, we're in the room now and you can't join us. Because we've got the turnover, we've got the legacy football clubs that have been in position for many, many years.
Yeah.
And Arsenal and Chelsea and Man City are the last of their kind. We allowed Chelsea and Man City to do this, and we didn't much like that either. So we ain't going to allow you to do it as well, because that means even more challenge.
So what's the
point of having Saudi owners?
What's the solution?
If you can't spend money.
Do you think you should get rid of financial fair play?
Absolutely. What's it achieve?
Okay, so it just comes down to the wealthiest person, individual, then, doesn't it? So then it transforms, it moves.
But you've got the ability to. Market forces was to tell. What is it we fixed? Just out of curiosity, whilst we all have this moment to share, what is it we fixed by putting financial fair play in place? What did we stop? Wages? What did we stop? Transfer fees? No, we just confined it to the big clubs.
So why did 14 clubs vote for it?
Why did they vote for it? Well, ultimately, it requires 6 clubs to. You got a quorum of 14. You got to get 7 to object against it. You've got an outcome. There's 6 clubs that are going to vote for it straight away.
Right.
So that the other 14 clubs, if you talk to them, they'll go. Well, if you talk to the clubs right off the record about what Chelsea got away with, for example, with a £10 million fine, they'll be outraged that they got a £10 million fine for cheating, right? But publicly, they'll go
massive result.
They're in the room. They're the ones that drive the broadcast rights. They're the ones that the broadcasters around the world want to pay the hundreds of millions of pounds that come into football. And as much as it stinks, and it does, we just know where our bread is
So
best
can't live
buttered.
with them, can't live without them.
To some extent.
Okay, Newcastle, keep an eye on it. You never know, we might be speaking to Mr. Hopkinson sometime soon again. We'll ask, because that's what we do. It's 11:30.
Who's winning the title?
Don't know. I don't know. I want to know what you think of this because I haven't got a clue. I really haven't. I think it's one of the most hardest calls to make we've had in recent years.
The thing is about Manchester City, I wonder without Pep how different it'll be.
Yep, and if they lose Rodri.
Exactly. You wonder what it's going to be like,
Yep.
but then you never write them off. Arsenal, I think, look like the most complete team.
Gabriel injured though
This
for
is
5
true,
months.
For 5 months.
And Trossard going out. I don't like the Trossard sale. I really don't. I think he's such a big, influential player for them. I can't believe they've sold him.
I know, but then Guimaraes Reyes came on in.
Big signing. Like him a
exactly.
lot.
But then I also look at Manchester United and I wonder, but Chelsea, I think, Jason's right. I
Yeah.
don't think we should be sleeping on it at all.
No. We could have a 5 or 6 horse race this season.
Yeah.
That would be incredible. It really would. I don't want to see somebody run away with it.
Go on then, though. But Jason looked down the camera and delivered that it will be
Yeah,
Chelsea.
I know.
So who is it, Ben? Put your neck on the line.
I'm going to say Man United. I do. I think Man United. I think the last season's form has set into motion a style of play and an expectation of what them players have to deliver week in, week out for Manchester United.
But they've got Champions League. They're back in Champions League.
They're back in Champions League.
I think they've got enough.
I think if they can add another one or two, Man United are definitely within a shout. But they need to add 1 or 2 big uns. But the problem nowadays is if you're going to add 1 or 2 big uns, then it's 200 million quid.
Mhm.
Liverpool need a couple big uns.
However, I mean, we do know that Manchester United look like they have something left to spend.
talkSPORT News.
Good morning. With the latest news headlines, I'm Emma Smith. Grassroots football pitches could be hit by new water restrictions just as the new season gets underway. The drought could see watering bans brought in for football and other sports pitches. Car washes, window cleaners and private swimming pools could also face restrictions, despite rain being forecast this week. It comes as Wessex Water announces a hosepipe ban across parts of the southwest from midnight tomorrow. Meanwhile, water companies could be allowed to charge customers more during droughts, under plans being considered by Ofwat. It comes despite growing anger over rising bills and millions being handed to shareholders. Water industry expert Professor David Hall says Ofwat might have free rein to do this.
It has no political responsibility. If you go through our democratic system, you will find nobody at any point to whom the companies are accountable.
It's now a default yes for new homes near train, tram and tube stations in England. New planning rules coming in today will fast-track building in well-connected areas. Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook has dismissed concerns local people and councils won't get a say.
These are the most sustainable locations for new homes, new commercial premises to come forward around transport hubs. We're not talking about overruling local democratic oversight of the development management process.
And Virgin Trains have been given the green light to run services from London to Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam from 2030. It could mean up to 20 return trips a day through the Channel Tunnel, giving Eurostar some new competition.
talkSPORT Sports Headlines with Bostik. For professional grade sealants with easy application and a perfect finish, pros trust Bostik.
There are concerns Man City could miss out on top 4 this season, and could Jamie Vardy end up in Brazil? Max has more at 12.
Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
BetMGM, we remember them. We're joined by Alex Licence from BetMGM. We're going to look at some of the sporting events and the odds round and about them. Alex, good to have you on board again. The Community Shield and Arsenal winning 3-0. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, morning guys. Good to be back. I spoke to our traders this morning, and interestingly, we took 3 times as many bets on Wolves Blackburn on Friday night in comparison to that yesterday. So it sort of shows the level of interest for the punters. It is a glorified friendly, isn't it, really? But a trophy's a trophy. It does lay down a little bit of a marker for the season, brushing City aside like that. And we have seen quite a bit of movement in the Premier League market just on the back of that yesterday. So Arsenal have been pretty much 6-4 all summer to win the league. They've come in even shorter now to 5-4, which is shorter than Liverpool were this time last year to defend that title. Obviously didn't go too well, but on the flip to that, Man City have moved out over half a point from 11-4 to 7-2 now to win the league. Could also have been affected by the Rodri news, but I'm not too sure on City this year. I'm not massively keen on Maresca. I think I was surprised he got such a clear run to that job, but I know you covered the actual game early on in the show, but I was wondering what would class as a good season for Arsenal this year? Is it winning the league again, or do they sort of need to go one better and do the league and maybe something else?
Come on, Arsenal invincible. I mean, let me get this right before we go any further. Arsenal 5-4 favourites, right?
Correct, yeah.
So the bookies are saying they should win the league.
So the bookies are saying it's Arsenal's to lose, really, Martin?
Well, they said the same thing about Liverpool last season, and they were wrong, weren't they? So, you know, what you have to do is set out, just keep winning your games. I think it was pleasing yesterday. Interesting to see who's going to finish in the top 4. I think that's worth a bet. He's throwing that at you. I don't want to throw you curveballs. Is it going to be Chelsea in the top 4? Is it going to be Manchester United? Someone said to me Spurs could even make it into the top 4. So anything can happen, Jim. So you just have to. You never take anything for granted.
Have you got your top 4 there, Alex, for us?
I have, yeah. So Arsenal as short as 1-9, Man City 1-4, as you would expect. Spurs 3-1 to finish in the top 4 if you fancy that. Then you've got Chelsea just below even money. But yeah, I mean, Spurs have done some half decent business. You don't know how it's going to go for them, but 3-1 might be a little bit of value there if you do fancy them to go well.
They finished 17th the last 2 seasons, and that's all you're giving us is 3-1, yeah?
We're edging on the side of caution after they've thrown a lot of money around, I think.
Okay, what about the Championship, Alex?
Yeah, well, not the best weekend for the relegated sides, was it? All 3 drawing. I watched that game on Friday, thought Blackburn were really unlucky with that penalty decision. But looking at the market, West Ham and Wolves, the top 2 in the market, 7-4 and 11-2 respectively. But the big moves over the weekend have been Middlesbrough, so they've come in quite a bit, 4 points. They were 10-1 to win the league before the weekend, now 6-1 on the back of that win over Lincoln. And also another interesting one on the back of that is the young lad Lancashire, they signed from Tottenham. So he got both goals for Borough, and he was 10-1 to win the Golden Boot before a ball was kicked. He's now the out-and-out favourite at 4-1 ahead of both Bowen and Jimenez. And I've been reading that people think he might be the Kane successor in future. So certainly one to keep an eye on.
I'll tell you what would be a fascinating bit. It's a complete left field one. Is how long Tonda Eckert is going to stay as Southampton manager.
Okay.
Because if Southampton go particularly well at the beginning of this season, given the amount of mayhem he's created down there, it'll be interesting to see what the odds would be of Tonda Eckert to be Southampton manager in January.
I have to say, it looks the coolest man at Vicarage Road, even though they lost to Watford. But I think your point's a good one. And tonight, Cardiff Wrexham in the Championship, a talkSPORT 2 exclusive. What are you thinking there?
Yeah, well, just on Southampton very quickly, they've shortened after getting beat. So they were 14-1 before the weekend, and they're into 12-1 for some reason. But yeah, tonight, Welsh derby, isn't it, in Cardiff? The first time they've met in the league since 2001, 2002, but they did meet in the League Cup last year. Cardiff coming away 2-1 winners. Cardiff obviously promoted this season. They won 17 of 23 at home last season, so that'll be massive for them if they're going to stay up. Wrexham obviously had a really good first season in the Championship. bit of disappointment on the playoffs, but you'd imagine they're going to be in and around the playoffs this year, especially with it dropping down to 8 teams. Not much to split them in the betting. Cardiff slight favourites at 6-4. Wrexham a little bit bigger at 7-2 and the draw at 5-2. But maybe if you're expecting a little bit of a feisty affair tonight, it could be worth looking at the card markets, and over 4.5 cards at 7-4 could be the play if we're expecting fireworks tonight.
Fireworks tonight, Cardiff, Wrexham. Okay, thank you so much. That was a look at the latest odds. Thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk. Download the app. 18 plus. GambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus. GambleAware.org.
As we head towards 11:45, this is a bit of a curious story. I wanted to get your take on this. Nottingham Forest owner Evangelos Marinakis suing Crystal Palace for defamation. Now, Simon, Martin, you might remember it. The banner that was displayed by Palace fans during the 1-1 draw at Selhurst Park way back last August 2025. The banner depicted Marinakis holding a gun to Forest midfielder Morgan Gibbs-White's head and read, "Mr. Marinakis is not involved in blackmail, match fixing, drug trafficking, or corruption." Palace were fined £50,000 by the FA over the banner, with the governing body ruling that the club hadn't done enough to prevent fans behaving in an improper, offensive, abusive, or provocative way. The FA actually went on to say, the fact that Crystal Palace had a policy to prevent banners being smuggled into the stadium demonstrates that it was aware of the risk. And Marinakis has now filed a defamation claim against Palace at the High Court and is seeking damages. Marinakis, for the record, has consistently and vigorously denied any wrongdoing regarding those allegations and has never been charged with any such offences. Where do you think this goes, Simon?
Well, damages, to qualify damages, you've got to prove damage and loss. I don't know what he's lost. I mean, I always felt it was a very strange phenomenon watching him stand on the pitch with Gibbs-White. It all seemed a bit unnatural, but that doesn't lend itself to another conclusion besides the fact that he's got control over his employees and they do as they're told. The Palace fans, the sanction of Palace by the FA is because a banner was, under their guidelines, was brought into the stadium with offensive suggestions on it, and the FA have sanctioned them, which is the precedent that Marinakis will build upon to suggest that there's already been an example of Palace copying and to the consequences of an event inside football. I don't know what damages he's suffered though. Reputational damage. So where does the harm? What are we saying he's lost? He's filing a pre-action protocol for defamation, which means Palace will have a couple of weeks, 14 days to respond to it, to say this is our position as far as we're concerned. And we're not complicit in the fans' thinking. We might have been a little bit tardy in our stewarding of the event.
In letting the banner in.
Yeah, well, I don't suppose Parish or these cohorts sat there going, let's get together with the fans and let them smuggle a banner in there, right? So with that in mind, Palace are guilty of not being particularly motivated at steward level to stop it and pull it down or to not allow it inside the stadium. But I'm not entirely sure where that becomes Crystal Palace's responsibility for the minds of fans doing and saying what they do. I've always had this challenge. I agree we want to try and get rid of tragedy chanting, but I've always felt that if you say to a football club, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but just hear me through for a second. If you go to a football club and say, these are the guidelines, you have to do this and do that and do the other. You can't physically tape someone's mouth up, but they want to start tragedy chanting. You can now react to it. Yet football clubs getting sanctioned for it always felt to me like, well, hang on a second, you're sanctioning the very people that don't have control over the individuals that are doing it. All they can do is expel them after the event or consequence. And if they do that, do you still get a fine as well? Never been answered that question.
The problem is it's in your stadium. It's your backyard. Sure. It's happening in your place.
Sure, but it's not being condoned by you, not being supported by you. No. And if you have publicly condemned it, which I don't know if Palace have.
But you have to be held responsible, don't you? Because it's happening within your premises.
But the idea that defamation is your responsibility.
No, I agree.
I'm in a stadium.
I know where you're going.
Right, and I say something awful about somebody. And the owner of Crystal Palace is now responsible for what I've said.
But they've been fined. Crystal Palace have been fined 50,000 because they've been seen to be not doing enough.
Correct. But that's a difference from defamation. What they've been fined under a rule, which is allowing and not doing enough to prevent something of this nature happening, right? But that's very different from defamation. Can you build a case for defamation on the back of the neglect at, say, steward level to have
It's
policed.
all become very personal between these two clubs.
Well, I mean, Marinakis got the win. I mean, Nottingham Forest got to stand on the shoulders of giants. Not only did you get to play in the Europa League last year, as opposed to Palace, you've now taken their manager.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
You sued for defamation on a few occasions.
Yeah,
would you, if you were Marinakis here, would you have done this?
Depends upon what was said to me in the boardroom. Depends if I got, a go for multiple attitude from the other side in the boardroom. I don't know. It seems a bit childish. I mean, everybody sat there. Well, I know we've got to tread lightly, but everyone sat there with Morgan Gibbs-White on the pitch by Marinakis pretty much being told what to say. Everyone sat there and watched it. No, people aren't blind, are they?
Would a young Simon Jordan have done what Marinakis has done?
I sued newspapers because they wrote untruths. I sued idiots like John Cross that wrote things that were untrue. And you can't do that. And Palace have been consequenced. But the journalist that wrote those rubbish about me was responsible for it. Is Steve Parish and Crystal Palace Football Club responsible for football fans bringing in a banner? So where's Palace's crime in all this? That they weren't diligent enough at the level of stopping inside the stadium. Now maybe Palace could have headed it off by making a statement like broadcasters often do when they don't like something that's been said on their platform. These are not the views of Sky. Or whatever it is, right? It could have been, these are not the views of Crystal Palace, and we vehemently disagree with the fact that the fans have done this.
And detached themselves.
But they probably didn't. And that's probably what Marinakis has got the deal about.
And Marinakis...
Or maybe there wasn't enough food in the boardroom for him.
Marinakis, as I've stressed, has consistently and vigorously denied any wrongdoing regarding those allegations and has never been charged with any such offences, as we explained. Okay, we're coming up to 10 to 12. Coming up to 12 noon in actual fact. Soon be Monday afternoon.
Honestly, I've seen a few messages today and you go, yeah, that O'Hara and Gabby, they're talking rubbish, need to get rid of them. Rory talks sense. I'm like, having a laugh.
Yeah, that was me. That was me saying that. Yeah. I've been commenting. I've been God, those two have been terrible. Look at those two giggling away.
Brennan Johnson, listen, fair play to him. He had a little bite. And that's fine. Got no problem with a player having a bite back because it's all part and parcel of working in the media, being a footballer. You're going to take criticism. He obviously didn't like the fact that we said it was crap for crap. What he didn't realise, and I'm sure...
That's weird of him, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously he's not going to like that. But, it was only a bit of a laugh. But, I get it. People are going to... You get the ump with things. I've been called crap plenty of times. Get called crap every single day of the week. Don't take it personal. All right? It is what it is. He has been crap.
Yeah, I think that's
like,
the point.
I'm sorry, but, I'm not saying he's a bad player. Anyone who plays Premier League football, anyone who does what he's done, fair play. Brilliant. Last season, Brennan Johnson was crap.
Yeah.
He would be the first to admit it. And hopefully he goes to Everton and he does all right. And Dwight McNeil goes the other way. I like Dwight McNeil. I think he's a good player. His stats is what we were talking about on the show, me and Gabby, were crap.
Yeah.
So there's no apology needed. I know Gabby bottled it like he always does.
He blamed you. He said it was you.
He tried to throw me under the bus. Not the first time. Won't be the last. But I'll stand by it. Nothing against Brennan Johnson.
I think you're right.
He's got all the attributes to be a decent player.
Yeah, I think
last
you're right.
season, he was crap.
talkSPORT, traffic and travel with Subway. Load up your fresh sub with an unbeatable lineup, including all the fresh salad and sauces you like.
Scotland, the Scottish national team, have got themselves a new national manager. We shall be hearing from him before we go, hopefully at 1 o'clock today. Top journalist up there, Bill Leckie, will be joining us. He's in conversation with Senior Pogognoli at this precise time. I might get closer to the real pronunciation of his name very shortly, not Leckie, but the other fellow. Michael Carrick and Manchester United, what kind of season do Manchester United have ahead of them? Because Michael Carrick has got the gig. We knew that in the build-up towards the end of last season. So he starts in pole position, the man in charge of Manchester United. And now we know, of course, that Marcus Rashford will be playing in the colours of Manchester United again this season and not heading back to Barcelona where he was on loan. Michael Carrick spoke in the last couple of days or so about Marcus Rashford and the future that he may or may not have at United.
To be honest, we're really calm. We just treat it like anybody else coming into the group, and there's obviously there's this slight twist that he knows the club as well as anybody, and that's a real positive. You know, he's been here all his career, all his life before the last 18 months or so, and to understand what it means, and so that side of things is naturally, you know, that's a given. I know we've got history, but I've got history with a number of the players as well, so that doesn't make that a unique situation at all, and treat him as exactly like any other player, you know, and bringing them into the group and carry on as normal. He brings the group things that we haven't got, and we want to get that balance with every individual player, and Marcus has come back and he's in good form, and it's been good to have him around this week.
Well, he is around and he has come back. Rashford came off the bench against Ruben Amorim's AC Milan to make his first appearance in the United shirt since 2024. And Amorim's AC Milan, for the record, won that game. Arsenal Invincible Martin Keown, is there another chapter left to be written in Rashford's United story after all?
I hope so. You know, you see a player, top talent, seem to lose his way. And I think he's got back to somewhere near his best. Not quite at his best, but nevertheless, I think he's done well in the 2 trips away. I thought he did well at Villa initially, and got back into the England fold. So he's a player that you would want in the group, and you want to get him in the right frame of mind. And maybe when he comes back into the Manchester environment, is that good for him? Because when he moved away, something was wrong, so he can't fall back into that. Hopefully he's found the right pathway now to play the best football. They've certainly, we're just looking at their fixtures, I'd be very confident going into the start of the season playing the 2 teams that were promoted, Hull and Ipswich, in their first 2 games. That's a good start, maybe creates a little bit of pressure, but you've got to fancy yourselves in those games, followed by Everton and then Man City. So they could get off to an absolute flyer, Manchester United, and that momentum could be exactly what they need.
I was about to ask you, Simon, do you hope he does well at Manchester United? I know that's not really the sort of question that you would want me to put to you. What do you think he'll do now he's back? There's another way of asking you.
Well, I think he's a whiner, and I think he creates outcomes for himself. I mean, it's an interesting one. He went to Barcelona, and Barcelona didn't want to pick up the option to buy him, and rather buy Anthony Gordon for twice the price they could have bought him for. That might tell you all the news about how well he did. This idea that he did well at Aston Villa, he had a couple of decent games, and if you talk to the Aston Villa fans, they'll come back at you and say he didn't do particularly well there. And he didn't do particularly well at Barcelona. There were moments in the World Cup where he shone, but most of the time he wasn't in the side, so you can't really give him much of an example there. He's back at United because no one can afford to pay 350 grand a week and a transfer fee. He's got 2 years left on his contract. The best way to sell him is get him back inside the club, get him back inside the team, and maybe get some value back into him so you can get him out the door. I mean, we sat here and we listened to that ridiculous podcast that he did a couple of years ago, and I know people can change and you can evolve, and we had to listen to the background music and woe is me. And then we had to listen to the idea that he wanted to leave the football club because that die had been cast. And if you are the problem, you take your problems with you, right? The problems aren't somewhere else. The problems are you. And whether that's his personal life or whether he's got too much money, but he's a consequence player. Whenever there's a consequence for Marcus Rashford, he will play. The consequence this year was that he needed to play relatively well in Barcelona to get in the England side. Oh, well, lo and behold, he plays relatively well. The consequence of going out on loan from Aston Villa, in people's minds, he creates an illusion that he did particularly well at Aston Villa, so he gets moved to Barcelona. When there's nothing on it for him, is he a one? I always felt sorry for him because I always thought he was a good player. But somewhere or another, someone sent a memo to everybody saying he was a world-class player, and so all of a sudden he got judged by this set of standards that he was never at. He's a decent player, and you've got to be a decent player to play at Man United, irrespective of what Man United you've got in your hands.
Is he a more than decent player, Martin?
Well, look, that's quite an attack on the player, and every player has his own motivation for whatever reason.
Ad hominem.
Maybe he wants to add you to that just to prove you wrong. That you're talking about the claptrap. But I do feel there's a good player there under the bonnet. There's a good player. He is 28. That's probably why Barcelona didn't take up the option, because they thought it was too much money, and maybe Gordon was.
Yeah, but Martin, let's face it, he owes Manchester United big time here, doesn't he? More than Manchester United owe him.
Is that his motivation? I think his motivation is to prove he's still a top player. I think it's quite exciting to have that player around me. If I were a manager, I'd want him in there. I'd look at it. I want to get the best from him. How do I get the best from this player? It looks like he's back on track. We've got to cash in on that. So they've got to use him in the right way, Jim. But there's no doubt I don't know if they've strengthened quite enough. I think Tielemans has been a good addition. It's never about one player. I think Santos is an interesting player. Chelsea have let go for a lot of money. So there's been players come in, but maybe not enough. The challenge for Carrick this season is, last year you played 40 games of football, hardly played at all, and it suited them. Now they're going to have an awful lot of football to play with the Champions League. They're back with the big time, and they've got to try make that count.
This is it. This is the job now. The audition was not the job. This is the job. This is where Michael Carrick can either manage Man United or he can't. And I know that he did a really good job. And there were a couple of times where he got found out. I think he got found out against Newcastle. But most of the time, Man United, in that period of time when he took over from the debacle, let's get it right. We got ourselves into such a state at Manchester United that Amorim was so bad that anybody would have looked better. And Carrick came in and he said different things to the players, sensible things. Now, this same group of players that piled up and produced outcomes for him will be the same group of players that will potentially unseat him if they don't get what they want from him. So it's an interesting one. And bringing Rashford back into the fold, I guarantee you, is because they couldn't get rid of him. So what have you got? You've got Barcelona that could have picked up. I take your point, but Rodri's just been bought for 65 million quid by Barcelona. So they got the dough, and they had Rashford in the building at 35 million quid, and they didn't want him. And that must tell you something about him.
And are United title challengers, Martin? Because Carrick, speaking about that,
70 million.
says we definitely have got the potential to achieve something special. I'm not hiding from the fact, and we should aim to do it. I can't give you a definitive answer on winning the title. It's certainly what we're pushing to do because we have to. That's the club we are.
Yes, but are
they title challengers?
I don't think they will be with the workload that they're going to come up against. And yes, if they buy a couple of more players, we've still got another week. But I think they'll fall out of the top four in trying to stay in that Champions League. If they progress in the Champions League,
out the top four,
they'll fall. I think they'll fall out of the top four. Yeah, because of the workload. I don't think the squad's big enough, and I just think that you're playing every 3 days, Jim. Do you know, like we're looking yesterday at Declan Rice averaging the last 3 seasons 63 matches. Man United played 40 matches in total last year. These players, it's a big turnaround for them. You make up in a different city, a different country.
Okay.
You know, so it was easy last year.
We shall watch how Manchester United do with Marcus Rashford in the ranks. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin Keown in our ranks. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com.
Another one or two players in Man United in with a shout at the title. What do you think, Gabby?
No, I think Champions League will take a lot out of that squad of players. I look at right backs, Mazraoui, Dalot, not good enough. Centre backs, they need cover there as well. Shesko, listen, he done okay last season, double figures. He's got to be at it this season. They've got a very good squad of players, Jeff, but if they don't get 2 or 3 top players in certain roles,
I don't think they can fight for the title. I think top 4 again and get out of the group stage of the Champions League will be a very good season.
Yeah, I mean, they've not been too busy in the transfer market, to say the least. They've brought in Yuri Tielemans, they've brought in Andre Santos. Ben Foster thinks one of those is the signing of the summer.
I still think Yuri Tielemans is the signing so far.
What a better business that is.
What a bit of business.
Yeah.
Honestly, I genuinely still think I'm watching a load of transfers happen, and Tottenham spending a lot of money and Arsenal just spent a lot of money. I still think Yuri Tielemans is the signing of the summer so far for 30-odd million quid, whatever it was. He is a ready-made, good-to-go starting 11 player, and I think if you can spend £30 million on a ready-to-go starter, it is worth every single penny.
Yeah. And I agree with him. I think Yuri Tielemans is going to be one of the signings of the summer. But when I look at that midfield, talent is Tielemans and Bruno Meno and Andre Santos. That's just too thin on the ground, isn't it? They need more than that.
Players get injured as well. And where's their real defensive midfielder? I know Andre Santos has been brought in for that role, but he didn't pull up any trees at Chelsea, did he? Where's their, Villa got Bouba Kamara. You look at Anderson, Gravenberch.
talkSPORT Sports Update with NordVPN, our fastest, most advanced VPN for digital privacy and security.
Good afternoon, I'm Max Scott here with your sports headlines. Stuart Pearce thinks Man City could miss out on the top 4 this season.
The one main thing that Pep had, the ability to keep driving the team time and time again. And if you drop off 5% is probably about three, 4 places in the Premier League.
Stuart calls Arsenal's 3-0 win one of the best Community Shield performances ever, while Martin Keown says the Gunners look ready to repeat last year's success.
As a result of their behaviour, their culture, you come back from a pre-season where World Cup's hardly any kind of rest, and it's all about really what the core beliefs in the group, and they showed yesterday they're really up for the challenge.
Arsenal host Coventry live on talkSPORT on Friday night as the Premier League returns. Needing legs in midfield, though, we're told Man City are closing in on signing Morocco's Ayoub Bouadi. And as Rodri heads to Barcelona, we're told City will bid for Enzo Fernandez. Chelsea, of course, want £120 million. Over at Aston Villa, will Emi Martinez want to compete for the number 1 spot with Japan's Zion Suzuki? Here's our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook.
It's an awkward one, isn't it? Because we know that Emi Martinez has got a fairly sizable ego. He's not going to like the fact that Villa have brought in another goalkeeper. So I think they're going to have to find a way to try and move him on between now and September the 1st.
Elsewhere, Spurs keeper Vicario is off to Juventus on loan while Jamie Vardy is wanted in Brazil. You can get all the latest transfer lines on our website, talksport.com. And the new darling of Team GB Athletics, Amy Hunt's told us competing with the men gave her an extra gear in the mixed relay.
I really like it as a new event. I think it's great to be able to pull all these kind of people on the track together at the same time. When we were warming up, Jeremiah was calling us the Avengers, and I think it's really great for the crowd and all the young people in the crowd to see us all together out at once.
Hunt won her record 4th European Championship gold alongside Jeremiah Azu, Zarnell Hughes and Dina Asher-Smith. You can watch Amy Hunt's interview back on the talkSPORT YouTube channel.
talkSPORT News.
Grassroots football could face water restrictions just as the season gets going, and new homes near train, tram and underground stations in England will be approved by default. Emma's got more in half an hour.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit this summer. Treat yourself to Bridgestone Turanza all-season 6 tyres with a 25,000 mileage guarantee. Book today at quickfit.com. Conditions apply.
Cloudy with outbreaks of rain in the north, further south feeling very warm and humid. Expect more showers across the country this week.
Good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes past 12 noon. It is Monday lunchtime. We're getting through the month of August. It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, and Arsenal Invincible Martin Keown, and we are live on talkSPORT. A lot to cram in the final hour. Scotland, the Scottish FA, rightly or wrongly, have gone a bit left field and have gone for a gentleman that I must admit I didn't know much about. Sébastien Pocognoli has been announced as the new Scotland manager. It's a 2-year deal. He's in Glasgow at the moment. He's speaking to the media, and you will hear from him hopefully before we go today at 1 o'clock in conversation with top journalist Bill Leckie. A lot to get in this final hour, as I said, because we have a new Premier League season kicking off this coming weekend, and for now, for the next few days, we're going to be building up to that. The Championship itself kicked off at the weekend, but how long can the Championship keep kidding itself with the view that it's better off without VAR? And we saw a perfect example at the weekend as to why VAR should, in my view, exist in the Championship. Norwich were beaten by West Brom 2-1 at Carrow Road. The opening goal of the game going in off Ona Hegebo's arm. Replay showed the ball striking Hegebo's arm before crossing the line, but with no VAR in the Championship, the wrong decision could not be reversed. It was a clear handball, and this was very much the view of Norwich boss Philippe Clement post-match.
They didn't see, so that's disappointing. I understand that in moments it's hard to see things, but the position that the linesman is in that moment, he needs to see that clearly for me. So yeah, it's disappointing to lose at least 2 points and maybe 3 points because of a decision like that. And also after that, several players saw it and go to the referee. If there's nothing going on, then they would never go to the referee. So, but they allowed the goal, and okay, it's with a lot of consequences.
So day one, Martin, and a goal stands that shouldn't have stood.
Yeah.
And Norwich end up losing the game. Not all down to that, but partly down to that. A lot of people say, oh, Championship football, one of the wonderful things about that is there's no VAR. Well, they're wrong, aren't they? Because there should be.
I think there's a strong argument to bring VAR in. When you consider that this is the 6th biggest league in European football and the revenues involved and how it impacts one wrong decision, massively impacts. If there's it's very difficult to get out of that division, isn't it? We all talk about the last game and what it's worth, the monies. There is VAR in the actual playoff final. I do think now it's time to bring it into the Championship. The clubs, though, are voting against it, Jim. This is the problem, getting everybody to believe in the same way. Some of the grounds maybe not set up for the Premier League or technology that you need. But I think now they really should be looking strongly at this and bringing it up to speed, particularly with the attendances, the money's involved. I can't believe it hasn't come in yet.
If you were still in the Championship, Simon, how would you vote?
Well, I think the Championship clubs probably would vote it in. I think the problem is that the EFL is a construct of 72 clubs, not one league in its own right. So go tell Accrington to spend 200,000 hard wiring their stadium for VAR and the licensing fees. This is a financial issue because you've got 72 clubs that are all part of a league format, the Football League. So they're all bound by the same governance. So why would you have VAR in the Championship but not VAR in League One? Why would you have VAR in League One and not in League Two? Because everything's just as important. The scales of finances might be different. The leagues might be better supported, but so on and so forth.
But how about starting with the Championship? Out with the Premier League, how about start with the Championship?
Then you've got 72 clubs, all members of one league. I.e., they might be in different leagues, but they're all members of the Football League. The Premier League is 20 clubs in its own league, right? So they create their own outcome.
Right.
The 72 clubs that are separated by 3 divisions are all members of one set of rules, right? So with that set of rules as governance, how are you going to turn around and say to a club that's bleeding out of its eyes, despite people like Sol Campbell wanting to go down to clubs like Morecambe and tell them to go to holidays in the Alps when they couldn't afford it, so he resigns as a result of it. These clubs haven't got any money. So
But Simon, it's crazy.
So the question,
it's crazy,
the question is, isn't it football's responsibility, with the profligacy that goes in football, to find the funding regime to put together VAR? Because VAR for a game in League Two is as important as VAR for winning the Premier League.
Good. Now you're talking about a solution.
But they won't.
So they should be made to do it, no?
Well, first of all, the first thing I'd do is put a levy on transfer fees for the agents and get them to pay some taxes into the system, because that would probably generate 20, 30, 40 million pounds a year, because the agents get to operate for nothing. Then you've got 40 million pounds going into the pyramid that could pay for the 72 clubs to have, or the 72 clubs.
So that's the way around it.
Well,
There's one way
they
around
won't do it, will they? Because the agents won't turn around and say they're going to pay a commission voluntarily. The FA haven't got the balls or the stomach to do it.
But they've
and
got
here we go.
VAR for the Championship playoff final.
There's the irony of it. There's the ridiculous. Do you know why? Because Wembley's wide for sound, right?
Yeah.
And these other stadiums are not. So the implications of VAR have already been hardwired in. The licensing cost. Why does VAR cost so much? And why isn't football able to be able to pay for it? You tell me. They go spend £2 billion on transfer fees. You go spend, 70-80% of the salaries of most football clubs, 60-70% in some places based on player wages.
Do you think fan sentiment plays
Give £35 million a year to the PFA to do nothing with?
Funnily enough, as you're speaking, though, Simon, a lot of messages coming in, Martin, Simon, from fans of Championship clubs saying, somewhat predictably, we don't want it.
Yeah, I understand that as well. But when we see this sort of glaring mistake that you've made there, Norwich looking...
But the argument actually shouldn't be about VAR, it should be about the competency of those officials. Put aside the VAR issue for some extent for the purpose of this conversation, because obviously Rick and Trevor sold us a pup turning around. Everyone really loves the real football inside the Championship because it's the real football. The old geezer with a rattle I always go on about, which was once upon a time Sky's advertising was the Premier League was all bells and whistles.
Yeah.
There was an old geezer with a rattle that promoted the Championship. But the competency of the officials. Why are we got officials that could not have seen that situation? They shouldn't need VAR to see that. That should have been dealt with by the on-field officials.
No, but VAR is a safety net.
But it shouldn't need it for that. We're talking about a basic level of competency. When we're talking about VAR analysing whether someone's got a bum hair offside, then fine, okay. But when we're talking about the reality of a situation which is so poor from the officiating, we've got to look at the standard of officiating before we even get into the VAR
but
argument.
we will get human error in refereeing.
That's not human error.
Well, of course it is.
I mean, I could have spent all day looking at the bloody eclipse and still seen that.
He's missed it, hasn't he? You might say, but the referee missed it. Ultimately, we're not seeing where he's positioned. The linesman's missed it.
Well, he weren't positioned in the right place, was he?
But VAR would be there to rescue in these situations.
Are you telling me if you were one of those officials, you would have spotted it?
Come on, everyone's saying that this was a bad decision from the officials.
Yeah.
We all know that VAR should be part of the equation. But in this instance, the first thing you should start with is how about do your jobs properly?
Yeah.
And then we look about the safety net.
Just amongst us, would you be voting for it today if that was suddenly to come under vote this afternoon?
Yes, of course I would.
Yeah.
Of course I would. The only thing wrong with VAR has been its deployment and the actual messaging that somehow the referees work for VAR rather than the other way around. But that's a different discussion. I wrote articles 20 years ago saying that jumpers for goalposts is not a novel concept for the biggest sport in the world. Every other sport can embrace technology, whether it's cricket or tennis or rugby. Why can't sport?
Yeah.
And then, of course, we saw the 2010 debacle with the Lampard goal that was never given, and of course the motivation comes into play. And now you've got a deployment of it, which has been seeded in two camps. The idiots that sat there screaming about every single decision like the Linekers of the world, that now sit there vilifying VAR because supposedly it's supposed to get it 100% right. Nobody ever said VAR was going to get it 100% right. Yet we've been arguing on this show saying, is the 10% margin between the two differentials worth the lack of spontaneity? And it shouldn't have been at that cost.
And curiously, the man beside you now, Mr. Martin Keown, is shouting for VAR.
But Murphy,
you weren't always doing that.
But Murphy wouldn't be, would he?
No, I wasn't.
Murphy could do better.
I wasn't
than all the
against
VAR
it. I want fairness. Goal line technology was fantastic, by the way. It's just how we how we implement
VAR. You wanted
VAR
around the pitch, didn't you?
Yeah, we need that.
No, but to be fair, I'm not taking it.
The ball can go out of play, and suddenly there's a goal scored, isn't there?
Yeah.
If it went out of play, that's not fair, is it?
But so you would vote for it, Simon,
Yes,
if you were a Championship club owner this afternoon.
Yeah.
But what would you then say to a League Two club owner who says to you, Simon, all right for you, but we can't afford it?
Tough luck. I mean, look.
So you'd put it in the
could
you put it in the Championship and then say, okay, no, below that, no, because they can't afford it?
Well, I don't think. I personally not sure that the rules provide for a different set of competition. Albeit, the reason why they can do it in a playoff final is the same reason they could exclude Southampton from the playoff final under the auspice of what they did in that Spygate and didn't do it in certain other respects with what's his mate at Leeds, Bielsa, yeah? Because in the playoff semi-finals, it's a knockout competition rather than a league format.
Right.
So you've got a situation where you can use the VAR in the playoffs because it's a knockout competition, whereas in the league format, you've got to have the same rules in League One, League Two as you have in the Championship.
Yeah.
The Premier League is a league in its own right.
Yeah.
So the EFL is bound together by 72 clubs, all observing the same rules.
Should the Premier League pay then towards the VAR?
No.
Below it?
Well, no. The argument is about distribution of monies, and EFL and the FA killed that golden goose a long time ago.
But having said you're all one big club, you'd still say to the League Two owner,
do one. Absolutely, do one. Yeah, absolutely. bunch of Bolsheviks down there running around doing absolutely nothing constructive. We've heard them on the show talking about, oh, yes, bring an independent regulator. Oh, good one. Well done. Regulating industry that's been an unprecedented success. Absolutely fantastic. Get more regulation into sport. Well done, you lot.
Okay, maybe the regulator's a man for VAR.
Could be, couldn't he?
Could
After
be.
he's got his peers at
12:15 Monday lunchtime, and we're back and pleased to be back. We will hear from this man, Sebastian Pocognoli, before we go.
Gabby Bongler joined myself and Drive on Monday. I asked him if he thought Arsenal are to win the league.
Yeah, I do, yeah. I think it's done, mate.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you think it's over?
Yeah, it's over, mate.
Really?
Yeah. They're that strong, man. They went and brought in Guimaraes as well, mate. Come on.
Yeah, I hear you, all right, and I probably don't want to admit it yet.
Yeah.
We ain't even kicked a ball.
I know,
They're
mate.
the only settled football club in the league.
Exactly.
Right? That's what they've got going for them. What do you make of that? Do you feel like, look, you're an Arsenal fan? They had a great season last season.
Yeah.
Are they're the team to beat?
I think of course they're the Premier League champions. They're the favourites, but I wouldn't sit here today, no chance, and say, it's ours easy. No way whatsoever, because there's so many factors last season. I mean, Arsenal finally got over the line. They played a productive way that maybe for some people, I didn't actually mind it. I quite enjoyed watching it, but there were some people that said that they stunk the place out in terms of the way that they played the game, but they did what they needed to get over the line.
They did stink the place out.
Well, no, you didn't.
Well, they did.
How?
Well, they stunk the Premier League out.
You can't stink it out and win it.
No, you can.
No, you can stick it out and finish fourth bottom. Hey, I'll tell you that. You can do that.
You did stink it out. Like, you brought the level of fun down in the Premier League.
For a Gooner, it wasn't.
Oh, come on. It was turgid, some of the football.
Listen, I loved it, right?
Did you really? You'd hate to play in that team.
No, I wouldn't. What, Premier League winners medal? I wouldn't.
You want to see a bit more exciting football.
People say this,
like, come on, you've won it now.
Right,
Arteta's won it. Play a bit more exciting
No,
stuff.
people say that, right? Arsenal still scored 71 goals in the league last year. Only Man City scored more.
It's Jim White, Simon Jordan, and Martin Keown. We're live in talkSPORT, Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade goes, as you know. We know this fella. He was on duty in Cardiff yesterday in the Community Shield final. talkSPORT's chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, is out and about, but that doesn't stop him joining us live in the show this lunchtime. Mr. Crook, good to speak to you again. Haven't seen you since New York. Or times like that, I think. No, I saw you back in the building here. What am I talking about? Where should we go with it? Rodri out. Possibly Ayoub Bouadi, the Moroccan, to Manchester City. Am I right?
Yeah, good afternoon from the salubrious surroundings of Membry Services. On my way back from Cardiff. Brilliant win for Martin Keown's Arsenal, but not a great Manchester City performance. I know we can't read too much into the Community Shield, but they looked a million miles off being title contenders. And you're right, no sooner had the full-time whistle sounded and we were getting news that Rodri, the deal was agreed to take him to Barcelona, £65 million, a 4-year contract for the Spanish World Cup winner. And they need legs in that midfield area. So you're right, Bouadi, very much a top target, had such a good World Cup with Morocco. I think that deal between City and Lille will happen. And then we're keeping tabs still on this Enzo Fernandez situation. Chelsea set that hard deadline of 5 o'clock on Friday, by which time they wanted all written bids to be in. Otherwise, that £120 million asking price we were being told is off the table. I wonder, once they complete the formalities with Rodri, they're going to sell other players as well. Manchester City, do they come calling and test Chelsea's resolve? That's certainly how I would predict the situation plays out.
I mean, is there such a thing, Alex? I mean, I should know. A deadline for written bids. The only deadline itself is the deadline itself, is it not?
Absolutely, Jim. And you'll remember a few years ago now, we were on duty together when Enzo Fernandez actually completed his move from Benfica to Chelsea. You had a direct line to Todd Bowley, who was handling negotiations in Portugal. He was saying to you, look, we're going to get this deal done. I don't think it actually got completed until after the window had closed on transfer deadline day. So are we going to see similar drama when it comes to Enzo Fernandez come September the 1st?
What do you think, Martin? Do you think they'll go all out for Fernandez?
Well, you look at how stable it was in this Man City dressing room, and suddenly now, you're bringing Fernandes in. Is he really given everything for Chelsea? Has he really been a good signing, would you say? Was he someone you looked at and thought, nailed on, top player, good man, good team man, looked for the exit door to me, linked with, was it Real Madrid a few months ago, was taken out of the team because of comments he made, and now here he is going off to Man City, and you want to buy him.
Interesting dynamic there, isn't there? There's a relationship there, isn't there? Maresca must like him. I would imagine that some of the dissent came popping out of his trap was about the same sort of time that Maresca was leaving Chelsea and created that culture. I think the same thing done with a fullback, Cucurella. So I think some of the dissent that was created in his players was created by Maresca. And I think Maresca bringing him to Manchester
And if he's
City,
been allowed to manage, then, yeah, okay, he's my player. Grealish was involved, wasn't he, yesterday? Foden was playing in the 10 we hadn't seen.
Yeah.
So it does look, Alex, as if they're giving full support, Man City, to their manager.
Well, they have to. I think we've underestimated maybe how big a challenge this is for Enzo Maresca. And I was listening to you guys debating his managerial credentials as I was driving down the M4. He wasn't particularly popular at Leicester because of the style of play, even though he took them up. Chelsea fans at times weren't happy with the football either. And he's got massive boots to fill in Pep Guardiola. You've got the Bernardo Silva situation. He's left the club. John Stones has left. Now Rodri has left. So they need reinforcements.
Yeah. What about Emiliano Martinez, goalkeeper at Villa, Argentinian, popular with some, but not popular with others? Is he on his way out of Villa or not?
I think Villa would like him to be, Jim. Didn't have a brilliant World Cup for Argentina, made a few errors over the course of the Premier League season as well. Maybe not the force that he once was. They're signing Zion Suzuki, very highly rated Japanese international from Parma, £30 million fee agreed, medical to take place, I think, as early as today. The plan, I think, was to sell Martinez to Juventus, but they pulled out of that deal because he has a finger injury. They're taking Beccario from Tottenham instead. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what Villa do with Martinez between now and the end of the window. I don't see that he's going to want to sit on the bench at Aston Villa, Emi Martinez.
I'm seeing some messages coming into me here, Alex. While Alex is with you, ask him about Miles Lewis-Skelly. Any update on him and where he might end up, or is he staying put?
Well, I think if you looked at his performance in Cardiff yesterday, Arsenal would be mad to let him go. Him and Bruno Guimaraes formed a really good partnership in front of the back door. Obviously, Declan Rice has got to come in, but they need competition for places. I think if somebody was to come in with a £60 million offer, they would have to consider it. But I think Arsenal's preference would be to sell the likes of Martinelli and Jesus and other players. It's a bad look, isn't it, Martin? If you have this academy that you've pumped a lot of money into, the idea is to give youth a chance, and fans want to see their own players in the first team. If you then start cashing in on the likes of Miles Lewis-Skelly, I'm just not sure optically that would be a great look.
Well, I'm not really bothered about the optics. He's a player that I would want in the team. He's showing he's good enough. He came back into the team on the 2nd of May against Fulham. Was so good they couldn't take him out. Played against Atletico Madrid. He's played ever since. That ball he plays in the final third, he's punching it forward. It's just the ball that you need. So you don't want to sell a player of that quality. But the competition Arsenal have for places in that midfield is quite remarkable.
Well, and on that very point, does it get in?
Well, he's in because, possession's 9/10 of the law. He's in position.
Right.
And he's showing he's good enough. But he's got World Cup winners around him, 2 of them sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
Bruno, another acquisition, looked really good. Declan also looked good. And that's really will form the platform, won't it, to create the football that Arsenal need to be more creative to win another title.
Okay, Alex Crook, thank you very much indeed. Alex coming to us somewhere between Cardiff and London from his car, by the sounds of it, from inside his own glove compartment. But we're coming up to 12:30 this Monday lunchtime. We're live in talkSPORT.
The way he was bullying Pacho, he was terrorising that defence. Did he miss chances? Yes, he did. Players at 25 will miss chances, never mind 17. He's going to learn a lot. I don't think you can start saying now he's the next striker after Harry Kane. But you know what you need to do now, Jeff? If I'm the FA, I am fast-tracking him because Luxembourg, no, he's not going to choose Luxembourg, but Cameroon, parents are from Cameroon. They'll be looking at him right now saying, we want to get him in the squad for the Cameroon. Get him playing a competitive qualifier so that he can't play for England. So maybe fast track him.
He's made it pretty clear that he wants to play for England, hasn't he?
Yeah, but you never know, do you? There's so many players. I was in that position where I could have played for Scotland, Nigeria, through my parents. His parents are Cameroonian. So if I'm the England setup now, he's been called up to under 17s for friendlies this month. Yeah. I'm fast tracking him even to the 21s. Not straight away now, Jeff, but let's see how he does over the next 2 or 3 months. It won't surprise me if he gets fast-tracked to the 21s. And Thomas Tuchel, the FA, are looking at it and saying, okay, do we get him into the squad? Do we get him a cap in a qualifier, a Nations League game, so that he has to play for England? Because after Harry Kane, how many strikers do we look at and say, whoa, he's the next Harry Kane? I agree, they shouldn't put pressure on him now that he's going to be our next striker after Harry Kane. But that performance last night, even though it's only 60, 70 minutes, he was fantastic. And maybe if he continues and the manager gives him game time this season, we could be looking in 2 years' time, Jeff, at the Euros and saying he's on that plane and he's the cover for Harry Kane.
Yeah.
talkSPORT News.
Good afternoon, it's Emma Kerwin with your headlines. Grassroots football could be caught in the drought squeeze just as the new season kicks off. The ongoing dry spell could see watering bans slapped on sports pitches. Car washes, window cleaners and private swimming pools could face restrictions too, despite rain forecast this week. Dr. Jeff DaCosta is a water expert at the University of Reading.
In terms of long-term planning, the infrastructure needs severe updating, and I think this needs to happen rather sooner than later.
Meanwhile, water firms could be allowed to hike prices during droughts under plans being considered by Ofwat. That's despite anger over soaring bills. Next, there are calls for more homes to be built near stations. Planning rules are being changed to make it easier to get thousands more built within walking distance of train, tram and tube stops. The idea is partly to stop us relying on cars so much. Housing Minister Matthew Pennycook has dismissed concerns locals and councils won't get a say.
We think it is right to ensure that we're maximising sustainable development. These are the most sustainable locations in the country for house building, existing transport hubs.
And friends and fans of Bonnie Tyler are in Swansea for her funeral this lunchtime. The singer, best known for her 80s hit Total Eclipse of the Heart, died last month, aged 75.
Talk Sport, sports headlines with Bostik. For workable, easy to apply mortar that tools easily, pros trust Bostik.
talkSPORT Stuart Pearce thinks Man City could miss out on the top four this season, and Sebastian Pocagnoli says he's proud to have been appointed the new head coach of Scotland.
That means it's Monday lunchtime, and it's Jim White, it's Simon Jordan and Martin Keown. We're live on talkSPORT and delighted to be so. So many things have happened, of course, post-World Cup. Various managers left their posts, some high profile, some very high profile, and it's all changed for Germany since we last saw you in New York for that World Cup, because Jurgen Klopp was appointed as the new Germany manager. And Jurgen said a few interesting things, did he not, when he took the job at that media conference? We'll get Simon and Martin's take on that in a second, but let's take let's get the take of this man who's sitting to my left here, or if you like to my right, the way you're looking at us if you're watching live on YouTube. German football broadcaster Konstantin Eckner has stopped by. Konstantin, how are you?
Pretty good. Enjoying London.
Yeah, what are you doing here? Not that we're not pleased to see you.
Yeah, of course. A friend of mine has a book launch party tonight here in London. He has published a book about Pep Guardiola, actually, John McKenzie of The Athletic. And yeah, so that's
excellent.
That's why I'm here.
Good for you. In the passing, when's your book coming out? Your next book?
God knows.
Okay, thank you for that update. Jurgen Klopp, how's it going down in Germany that he indeed is the new man in charge of the German national team?
There was no real alternative. The German FA also only talked to Jurgen Klopp at the time when it was clear that they would part ways with Julian Nagelsmann after that unfortunate exit, premature exit from the World Cup. And they were all eyes on Jurgen Klopp, and they secured that deal, of course. Wasn't as complicated as at least expected at first, because Red Bull, they played ball in a sense and allowed Jurgen Klopp to leave and to pursue that next adventure in his career. And Jurgen Klopp essentially also said it will be his final chapter, at least when it comes to his coaching career. So maybe 4 more, maybe 6, maybe 8 more years, and then that's it for Jurgen Klopp as a manager, at least.
Okay. You're a big fan of Klopp, so you know.
Oh, very much so. I think his reputation is slightly bigger than his achievements, but I still think he's a brilliant manager.
Yeah. The thing was, at the media conference, Konstantin, I don't know what you thought, but at the time I thought, this is odd, is it not? He chose the moment to issue a warning, Klopp, to the media. And he said, if you behave badly, this was directly to the media, if you behave badly and don't leave my family in peace, then I'll be gone. I'll just turn away. I know there are other countries where national team coaches are treated even worse. I'm not doing this job for myself. I'm doing it for you. And he says, I love this job, but I'm always ready to call it quits if need be. Why did he have to say that?
It was unexpected in a sense, because usually, I mean, we know Jurgen Klopp, of course, as an intense personality, but we also know him as someone who could be labeled a media darling. I mean, there are few managers, especially there have been few managers in England in the past 20, 30 years who were as admired as Jurgen Klopp, at least by his fans, by Liverpool fans. Sometimes probably hated by our fans for sporting reasons, but it came unexpected. I think he remembered that actually Julian Nagelsmann got some slack for his wife being at the camp in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, with the Germany team, and that actually Nagelsmann and his wife spent a lot of time together. And after, of course, that exit against Paraguay, people were wondering maybe Julian Nagelsmann wasn't as interested in talking to the players as he was interested in talking to his wife and his staff. That was one of the major points of criticism towards Nagelsmann. He spent more time with his wife and his staff. And so his wife, who's a journalist in Germany, she got attacked as well, in a sense, right? As collateral damage.
Right.
And that's, I think Jurgen Klopp saw that and thought, all right, never attack my wife. Because something we should keep in mind, Jurgen Klopp's wife has never been in the limelight. He always kept her out of everything. And I think on purpose.
It's a strange one, though, isn't it? Because wasn't Nagelsmann linked to the same... Wasn't there an issue with Bayern Munich where Nagelsmann was talking to his wife and things were finding themselves in the press? So that context with Nagelsmann is specific and explicit, whereas there's no reason for Jurgen Klopp to even believe that his wife would be fair game.
That's right.
Because Nagelsmann made his wife, to some extent, fair game.
Yeah, and it's also she's a journalist, so it's a bit of a different story, right? When you are a journalist, even though you worked at a newspaper, not in TV, but still, you are a public person.
So constantly, why is he doing it? Is it because he can do it? Is his grasp being exceeded by his reach in terms of he is Jurgen Klopp, he is the Messiah coming home to fix German football? And by the way, I don't expect any criticism whilst I'm doing it.
It feels like it, and also what he implicitly said basically is that we should all be on the same page. So national media, German national team, German federation, right? We should all be on the same page. So basically the media should be rooting for the team and for Jurgen Klopp. Yeah. But that's a bit of a strange perception of how media works. I mean, media should also be there as checks and balances, especially in football, where there are very few checks and balances actually at clubs and federations.
But
you say that, but then you do need to feel a warmth, okay, from the media. So hearing it in your voice, obviously, you're not getting his side of the story, which is, I hope that the other journalists have actually taken it on board better than you have, because you need to listen in. Because what it is, we need to become together. So if we're all German, you need to become together as one, okay? You do this as an energy, as a force. I was in France when France set sail to the World Cup. You can't believe how together they were, the unity, former players, journalists, everybody's. Go on, you go with our blessing. We go there together, okay, to win. Now, it hasn't always been the case for England for this. We worked very hard to get that. Germany has obviously lost that. They're 4 times winner of the World Cup. It's been a long time. What was it? The last time you won a World Cup was that 2014?
2014.
So you need to find it again. Now, this guy is one of the great leaders.
He can't be.
He's a great leader.
He can't be beyond criticism.
No.
He can't.
But he's just setting the stall out at the beginning.
Well, I look at my family, fine, but that can't also mean that if suddenly everyone's to be together, absolutely in a perfect world, everyone's together, but the press has got to be given constructive and fair criticism, not agenda-based criticism or bias. If Jurgen Klopp's tenure at Germany doesn't start very well, he should be under pressure because that goes with the territory. He shouldn't be excluded from that. Yeah, and that, to some extent, is what
he's coming in. He wants to change the environment, doesn't he?
He does, and I get that, but it's an odd move in a sense that you're demanding that unity. Just make a few good moves,
so how else
win a few good games, and then you will get it. But right now he's actually putting more pressure on himself because now the media is actually on alert and thinking, all right, now we will watch you actually more closely than before because we might be on your side. Because
they're missing the point, though, the journalists, if that's the way that the attitude they want to adopt. Because at the end of the day, if you're a German, you want to see Germany win it, don't you? Wholeheartedly, you want to see. You don't work against your own nation. And I think that's probably happening for the German team. Take it on board. don't take it on board, actually, and then England go and do it next. But it's up to you to decide as a journalist.
Martin, maybe it's not a good idea for Klopp to take over and address the media and start with a threat.
No, but it's how he manages. He's in charge. He reads the room. Look what he did in Liverpool.
He's not in control.
Did anyone understand the Liverpool people better than Jurgen Klopp? No. He went in there, he was magnificent. Let him manage. Listen for a change. That's what I would say to the journalists in Germany. Listen, maybe it has got a bit too much. Maybe the stories we're running after.
Can you take
focus
that
on the
message
football
back to Germany?
I will.
To all the journalists out there that Martin Keown
It's not
wants you all
about.
to
It's
listen.
not about your stories. It's about the team.
Listen up, you German.
Actually, tomorrow there's a meeting of a lot of journalists in Frankfurt.
You're going to start off.
Yeah, I will. It's actually
Just
true.
before we start, boys.
And I will tell them.
I was talking to Martin Keown yesterday. Incidentally, what's the feeling in Germany about another German, Thomas Tuchel? Because is it still regarded as a major opportunity missed by Tuchel in England?
It is. I mean, of course, the England exit against Argentina wasn't perceived with any emotions, basically. I feel sometimes, I at least believe that a lot of people in England believe that Germany, they see England as their main rival. It's actually the Netherlands for many, many decades. It's just, and actually, Jurgen Klopp's first match will be against the Netherlands, now coached by Xavi Hernandez. Great world. But when it comes to Thomas Tuchel, there was a lot of astonishment at how actually England fell off against Argentina and how Tuchel couldn't manage to keep his team on track. It was a lot of astonishment. There wasn't much Schadenfreude, which is actually a German word. There wasn't much Schadenfreude. Because Argentina, I mean, they didn't win a prize for best behavior at the World Cup.
No. Sportsmanship is not big with them. While we have you, Constantine, before you go back to address the journalists tomorrow about what Martin would like you to say to them, Newcastle have got a German coach in Matthias Jessel. So Eddie Howe's gone. Goodbye, Eddie. He'll be back soon. I hope he is. Who is Jessel? What are they getting in him?
Of course, also someone who's pretty much an unknown commodity in England. Matthias Jaisler has coached.
What's his name? Jaisler.
Jaisler. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So he short story on him. He played under Ralf Rangnick at Hoffenheim when they came up. They had back-to-back promotions. He was a very young defender. He had to retire at the age of 25 because he had a knee injury. Then he had an Achilles tendon tear, so it was over for him. So he transitioned into coaching very quickly, and he is someone. I compare him to Fabian Hürzeler at Brighton. Both very young, very well educated, great communicator. Jaisler, of course, he won back-to-back championships in Austria. He won the AFC Champions League Elite in Asia, so the top-tier competition in Asia twice in the past 2 years with Al Ahly. That doesn't say much because now he's coaching Newcastle. One point that should make Newcastle fans at least hopeful is, first, he's a great communicator. He's a very clear communicator. And also at Al Ahly, he managed Ivan Toney, Riyad Mahrez, Franck Kessie. So sometimes older players to an extent who weren't really bothered to be there. I mean, they are just in Saudi Arabia to earn money. Not really because they want to play great football. But actually, he got along with all those older players, those established and well-paid players very well. And I think that's something that we should keep in mind. It's still a tough task. I mean, he took over 3 weeks before the start of the season. So we don't know, but I at least would give him a little bit of time. Newcastle are in a dire situation right now.
Okay. Constantine, thank you so much for stopping by. Constantine Eckner with us, and no doubt he shall be back once the season gets up and running. Constantine, vielen Dank. Thank you so much. And what's his name? Matthias Jaisler. Jaisler. Of course it is. Who's the other fella we're talking about? Oh, the new manager of Scotland. He's up next. So, Martin, you've already said that you worry for Manchester City in some way, but I mean, it's the Community Shield. Can you really take the Community Shield as a serious benchmark
I think that's
at
a bit
any time?
disparaging what you're saying. Let me just put it into perspective. So
How is it?
that's a game of honour, right? In terms of it's an honour to play in that football match because what it represents is the two most successful teams from the season before. So you walk out there, shoulders back, chest out, and you're proud to be there. Okay, you want to win it. Let me tell you, you want that in your team photograph. That photograph for Arsenal has been held back, and City, for this week, so they can maybe drop in another trophy. Arsenal will have that. You're proud to do it.
So you really value your
It's a dress
Shield medal,
100%, 100%. It's
Really?
a dress. Oh, yes. Well, you'll have to take it from me. You've asked me the question. If you don't believe me, then what can I do about that?
Okay.
So I can just tell you how I was, my mindset. Now, really what I enjoyed yesterday was the mindset of the players. So obviously that's born out of the culture within the club. The manager's really pleased. You can see there's been a really good reaction. Ødegaard is back in the building, is ready to go. He's the captain. He's the player whose position's under most threat, and he played a big part in the game yesterday. So let's get that right. But you're right. If you lose the game, you can say it doesn't matter, we're not ready, because it's part of your training.
That's a very point.
But the thing is, it's still a valuable trophy. Whenever we saw Pep win it, wasn't that often, by the way, so we shouldn't be panicking in a Man City situation. They lost 4 of the last 5 Community Shields. You basically look at it and say, okay, it's part of the training, but we'll be ready for the start. It's a wake-up call for Man City, and I'm saying they need to wake up, Jim, because yesterday they fell below the standards that we've been used to seeing.
So the Germans have got Klopp. Who have Scotland got after that World Cup over in the USA? Of course, Steve Clarke has departed the scene. Scotland, of course, not the best of World Cup final appearances, as you might imagine. They beat Haiti, but it didn't go so well after that. Defeat to Morocco, defeat to Brazil. And now Clarke is gone, and in comes the 39-year-old former Belgium international, Sébastien Pocognoli, who's been announced as a new Scotland manager on a 2-year deal. Left field, yes. Who is he? We're going to find out a bit more in the course of events. Pocognoli has been in Glasgow this morning. He's been speaking about why he took the job, why he said yes to Scotland.
I think some passion daily on the pitch that I try to give to my players. In the national team, you have to do it on a very short period of time, but I like it because you have to create like a family atmosphere. And yeah, I like to just look forward on the pitch and try to attack and defend aggressively and try to create a lot of chance. So for that you need to build a philosophy, a squad, training session, a staff who will go and create a good atmosphere.
He becomes only the second foreign manager to take charge of Scotland, the first since Bertie Vogts left in 2004. Pocognoli was sacked by Monaco in June after just 8 months in charge. Previously enjoyed success in Belgium with Union Saint-Gilloise. So what do we make of it? Top journalist Bill Leckie joins us live. Bill, you spoke to the fellow this morning. What do you make of it?
Very impressed by him so far, Jim. Very impressed by the SFA's decision. As you know, you've worked here up here for even longer than I have.
Thank you, Bill.
That's no problem at all. I'm giving you that as a compliment, James. You know how resistant to change the SFA have always been, how stuck in their ways they've always been. And there they are. There's a man in his 60s, Steve Clarke, a man very stuck in his ways, who quits after the World Cup. And they could have gone down the same line. They could have gone for a kind of continuation candidate. But they've gone very left field, as you say. They've brought in a much younger man, a man with a much different way of playing football. And I think it signals, hopefully, a change of attitude right at the top of Scottish football.
What do you think of it, Martin? Simon, he previously played in England for West Brom and Brighton. He won 13 caps for Belgium. So at 39, he knows his way around. And, of course, the proof will be in the pudding, won't it?
Well, I'm at 39, I was still playing. So he's quite young. It does seem to be a bit left field, going after somebody with the lack of experience, what he's going into. They feel, though, they're obviously very impressed with him. We'll have to see how he gets on. He gets straight into their first international start in September.
Yeah.
So
which is Slovenia. Nations League.
So he's going to have to, he'd have been, he'll obviously come to terms with what he's got. I think he's got a decent set of players that he can work with. Steve Clarke following on to put a good foundation in for him. And then we'll have to just see how he goes, Jim, because he's just so untried.
I mean, Simon, Bill saying the SFA should maybe be applauded for, left field, but it's ambitious. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, he's managed 107 games in domestic football. He's just been binned off by Monaco, fired by Monaco. I mean, obviously Tony Bloom would have employed him, so maybe they got some reference from Brighton that Brighton very rarely employ bad managers, because he employed him in his Belgium club. But I think that international level, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, Scaloni went into Argentina without the credentials, didn't he? But the problem for Scotland is your players aren't good enough. I don't care. You can bring who you want. You can bring David Copperfield in if you want and create illusions. Your players aren't good enough. You haven't got forwards that are good enough. Defensively, you're not good enough. You've got some good midfield players in there, and James McTominay and John McGinn. But when it comes to answering the questions at either end of the field, you ain't good enough. You imploded against two sides and handed them goals, and you couldn't score goals in the games. So what does that? Is it this idea that Scotland are suddenly going to play a more expansive brand of football because old, misery chops has gone? It's nonsense. Steve Clarke did a decent job.
Well, I mean, Bill, on that, I mean, what does Poglignoli inherit, if you like?
He inherits a squad who I think are better than Simon is making out. I think we do have those weaknesses, and they're very blatant weaknesses. But I think we also have a core of young players coming through who need to be bled into the squad, who I think will improve us. I mean, for instance, a boy called Robbie Ure just went to Seville for £8 million from a club in Sweden. Couldn't get a game in Scotland because one of our problems is that the biggest clubs in Scotland won't play Scottish players. So that's one of the things that has to change from the very top of the game. I think Poglignoli's reputation as he comes here is on the up. He won the Belgian title with Union, which they hadn't done in 90 years. I don't think we have the choice of every manager in the world to go for the way our England would. For instance, you can take whoever you want. You can ask whoever you want. We don't have that. But I think I like this appointment. I like it. And he's going to get into a very, very sink or swim situation where we've got 3 weeks where we play basically an entire Nations League group. It's like a microwaved competition. And he's soon going to find out what he has to work with. But I like the way he's talking about it, and I'm willing to give him a chance.
That's good though, Bill, because in your eyes, it's not wrong. It shouldn't be seen as a failure when a national team looks overseas for a new manager.
Absolutely not. And I think one of the things that has worried him when he was in talks with the SFA was, will I be accepted? We've only had one foreign manager. It was Bertie Vogts. You were around at that time, Jim. You know how wrong movie that whole thing was. It just never seemed to work. His results weren't always terrible, but he's only remembered for the terrible results. I think Poglignoli's quite right to ask, will I be accepted? I think Scotland fans are at a place where they want someone who shows more outward passion for the job than Steve did. Steve did a brilliant job in getting us to tournaments, and then when he got to tournaments, he went into his shell and he put the handbrake on, and I think it cost us dearly. And I don't think we're that far short of we're not looking to win World Cups and Euros. We know we're not there. But to qualify out of the groups would be the next step for us. I don't think we're far away from that. It's a little bit of a let the handbrake out, let players believe in themselves and do things, make decisions for themselves on the park, which is something Poglignoli wants to do, rather than playing to a very set of rules the way Steve imposed.
And Mr. Jordan to my left is sitting here nodding in approval to what Bill Leckie is saying.
I mean, Martin's a former footballer. I think all players should at times make decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
Not just rely on the orthodoxy of, well, we got to play out from the back, we got to do this, we got to do that because the coach has done it. Make good decisions. The problem for me is that if people show you what they are, believe them. And I take on board Bill's point about young players coming through. And if those young players have bled through and they're good enough, then fantastic. But what you've currently got with the current crop that was there is not good enough. Up top, you're not good enough. Shankland is a mile off, despite being signed by Rangers. And the other kid that was at Southampton, Shadams, there's no quality there, and defensively. But listen, you know, if shaking up the orthodoxy is what Bill is lauding and applauding because they're set in their ways and they don't have any vision, then maybe a left field appointment will create something. But if you've got 107 games behind you, it feels like you're learning your trade whilst being at the top of the mountain.
Isn't it? Okay. It's a gamble. I think Steve Clarke, though, has put a very good foundation in.
Yeah, I think so too.
And pragmatic, probably, Bill, is something I would say more than anything else. And it's about that next step, trying to get them to be a bit more creative, you know. But look, changes are going to have to be made because the age of some of the back four, the goalkeeper, and so on.
I mean, Bill, in a couple of sentences, Bill, finish it for me. You're optimistic.
I am. I like what they've done. The proof of the pudding will be in these Nations League games. We might be, as he just said to us there, you all like me today, but maybe in 6 weeks you won't like me very much.
Bill? Who are you playing?
Am I playing?
No, who they playing?
Who are they playing? I thought you asked if I was playing. I'm available.
You could do better than some of them, yeah.
I would, Simon. I would have a wee go up front and try and run the channels a bit better than some of them.
Slovenia.
We've got Slovenia. We've got North Macedonia. That's the kind of opening games. We've got Switzerland. So it's not easy.
No, Switzerland certainly not. Yeah.
No, Switzerland are. But the SFA are talking now about bringing in managers who win the games that we should win. And that sounds really obvious, but that's the thing Scotland have never done. We tend to win unexpected games,
right?
And then we lose the games that everybody thinks, you know, down the years, Zaire, Iran, Costa Rica, blah, blah, blah.
And you've got to qualify
so let's
for
start
your
doing
own,
the things we should be doing.
You've got to qualify for the Euros next with your own tournament, which is not a given, by the way.
Because we wouldn't want that for you, would we?
No,
you're not playing in your own tournament.
No, I would hate to think that you'll be so upset for us if we don't manage to do that. Thank you so much, Bill Leckie, as always.
Cheers.
Thanks so much for your contribution, Bill. Remember the name, not Bill Leckie. Well, you can remember Bill's name, but Sebastian Pocognoli. I'll get used to that. Martin Keown, invincible as always. As for you, I'll see you tomorrow at 10, Simon. Thanks to Phil and Dave for being in studio and being our guests today. Hope you enjoyed it. We're at 1 o'clock.